Am I the asshole for the email that I sent to a teacher about her "you have to include everyone" rules, saying that was a dangerous lesson? My daughter is 12. I'm trying to teach her ways of creating and respecting her boundaries that are age appropriate, teaching her that it's okay to say no to things that she feels uncomfortable with. There is a boy in her class who keeps bothering her and her female friends at recess. I've encouraged her to go to me or her teacher when this happens. My daughter told me a few days ago that in class, the teacher had asked the kids to form groups of about 4 or 5. She had formed a group of 5 with some other girls, then the boy who had been giving her trouble at recess came over and said he was joining their group. Another girl said that they already have 5, and he should work with a group who only have 2 or 3 people. He said no because the teacher had said about 4 or 5. My daughter then said that they didn't want to work with him, and he should find another group. A few of the other girls agreed with her, and he said that you can't exclude me like that, it's against class rules. And she said she didn't care. I heard about this from my daughter first, and the way she talked about it, she had been firm but not unkind. But then I got an email from her teacher saying that she wanted to call. She said that there had been an incident at school where my daughter had excluded another child, and that wasn't allowed in her class, and she wanted me to have a talk with her about it. Her telling of events was the same as my daughter's. I felt proud of my daughter for her honesty. I sent her an email saying, "Dear Mrs. Teacher, I'm sorry, but that is not a lesson that I feel comfortable teaching my daughter. She is at the age where she's already having to deal with unwanted attention, and I'm making a point to teach her that she does not have to be around anyone who makes her uncomfortable, and that a young lady is able to choose to spend time with people who make her feel respected. I understand you already are aware boy has been behaving in ways that she feels uncomfortable with at recess from our prior conversations. I think it is a very dangerous lesson to teach a girl that she has to include and be kind to everyone, instead of teaching her to be aware of when someone is not respecting her no and stepping out of the situation. I hope I don't have to explain in too much detail why I find this important, but to put it briefly, I was brought up with the include everyone mindset, no exceptions. It taught me to ignore my own comfort level, and as I became a young adult, I became the victim of men who used my inability to say no to their advantage. It's a dangerous lesson, and no longer appropriate at that age. Thank you, OP. She emailed me back asking for a meeting in person with the principal. I'm preparing for that, but wondering if my email was too harsh. Am I the asshole for my response to my daughter's teacher? Personally, I don't really think so. I think you've laid out all your reasons for why, and you've given a real-life example as to where that lesson has gone awry, where that lesson has gone wrong. Because there really are men who will use your inability to say no to their advantage. There are also women in this world who will take your inability to say no to their advantage also. It's a dangerous world out there. If you teach someone to have their guard down at all times and accepting of everyone, that's just a recipe for disaster. There's a reason that we have guards up and that we are cautious of people. I think this teacher is doing your daughter and everyone else a disservice. I can see where she's coming from, but she is taking this lesson to an extreme, and I don't support it. And now they're trying to bully you with the principal. I'm going with not the asshole for this one. And now in the comments, you could point out that the boy didn't need to join their group, as there were other incomplete groups. He wanted to join that one that was already complete for the sole reason that your daughter was in the group. Ask them when, and more importantly, why his want to be near your daughter superseded your daughter's need to feel safe from his unwanted advances and harassment. Not the asshole. Opie, please, please, please use this line of reasoning with the teacher and administrator. All children should be allowed to set boundaries from unwanted attention. I would also use the word bully when you meet with a principal. If they are not understanding anything else, they will understand that this boy has been bullying your daughter at recess. It is infuriating that the bigger picture, but they do have strict rules about bullying. Actually, using the words sexual harassment, sexual assault, stalking, etc. can get their attention faster. Please, please read this. I used to work in the public school system, and now I have to deal with it as a parent. If anything, you were not harsh enough. Many teachers are willing to die on whatever hill they have in their focus because of the frequent dictatorial personality type in traditionally structured educational environments. Quite frankly, you should be willing to die on that hill too. After reading your email to the teacher, she's probably thinking that with her and the principal against you, that you will go down easily, and that the likely result is you apologizing to them. I would not hesitate to bring someone else with you. Even if you're a straight-up hard-ass and you were trying to be overly polite in your email, you need a witness as well as someone to balance the power. I would use the words bullying as well as sexual harassment. I would also not hesitate to use the words legal action, school board, media, victimization, etc. I would also insist upon making an audio recording of the meeting. If they protest, I would reschedule with an attorney present. I would also go into the meeting with copies of everything your daughter has told you, as well as anything any other girl in the classroom would share. To be honest, I wouldn't hesitate to show up with attorney as well as parents of the other girls that this boy has harassed. You need to be completely uncompromising, because unless it's an extremely rare situation, the teacher and the principal are currently seeing you as an annoying gnat that they simply can swat away between the two of them. You should go in that room knowing that. It sucks, but it's like going to a mechanic and car dealership. The scarier the man you take with you, the smoother everything goes. My kids have food allergies, and my wife fought for months to get a 504 plan. I show up to the next meeting and it was, "Yes, sir, right away, sir." She is still mad about it 10 years later. After that incident, she started loaning me to her single friends as backup. Absolutely insane. You are not the asshole here. Your email was much more polite than mine would have been, and I would actually ask to speak to the principal without her. Not the asshole. I am fed up to the back teeth with men and boys getting away with nonsense like this. In fact, I think you were careful to be polite in your letter and could have gone further. Especially so in this case, as it seems you have pointed out problems with this boy in the past, so it's not something the teacher is unaware of. Prepare yourself for the meeting. Have a list of exactly all the incidents of harassment, for that is what it is, that your daughter has experienced. Be specific. Say that you have mentioned it to the teacher before and state what actions were taken. It sounds like nothing. See if you can look up some facts about the rise in harassment of girls at school. Say this boy was harassing her and her friends, and that she has the right to not work with someone that she feels uncomfortable with. Ask them what they plan to do about the boy's actions. If it's not sufficient, tell them you'll go higher, to the principal's boss and the school board. See if the school will not be responsible for ensuring the safety of its pupils, you will consider legal actions. Stand up to them. Don't let the bullies win. And now to the edit to update. So I reached out to the parents of the other 4 girls in the class who were involved, and we all coordinated to go speak to the school administration together. They had similar views, thinking it was inappropriate for the school to expect the girls to work with someone who they are not comfortable with, and frustrated the teacher didn't do more to deal with the issues during recess that made the girls uncomfortable to start with. I ended up asking the school if we could reschedule the meeting to a time all the involved families could make, and we ended up meeting this afternoon along with my husband, another couple, 2 mothers, and a father, along with the teacher and principal. We all presented a united front asking for the following. The school does training for the teachers on trauma-informed teaching methods and the dangers of expecting young women to go against their best judgment of their own boundaries to be nice. Instead of include everyone, the kids should be allowed to respectfully set boundaries and be taught to respect each other's boundaries. The school addresses harassment in class or at recess and doesn't enable it to continue. We went to talk, and I think it went a lot better having all the parents join instead of if I'd gone alone. The teacher and principal apologized, and the principal agreed to look for resources on how to better navigate the balance between being inclusive and not forcing kids into including someone who was crossing a line with them. Thanks a lot for all the amazing advice in the comments. I cannot believe how much this blew up, and I'm so grateful to everyone who replied with advice and support. And honestly, I was getting pretty emotional hearing how the lessons I'm trying to teach my little one resonated with other women, whether they are mums too, or have been through some of the same struggles that I have. And now in the comments, I doubt it would have gone so well had she not gone with the other parents. Good thinking on her part. You're right. I feel like the school would not have taken it as seriously if she went alone. With other parents, the school now knows this is a problem and they can't ignore it. I agree. These girls were clearly having issues with this boy before, and the school wasn't doing anything to fix the issue. Now the teacher has escalated this by making it the girls are the villains, and the parents are clearly pushing back and saying, how is this kid's bad behavior the fault of these girls? Now the school can't ignore this kid's behavior. This was probably the best way this situation could have been handled. It's nice to see schools dealing with the situation in a good way, although it's a shame the individual teacher had to take it to the principal before backing off. I hope that the boy was also spoken to as well, as it seems he's making multiple girls feel uncomfortable. Even if it isn't intentional, it's better that he learns about boundaries now. People like this give me hope. I wasn't taught any of this in school and I'm in my 30s. Same. I was taught to just ignore them, which rarely works. When I was in middle school, after a year and a half of nasty comments, I finally turned to my bullies. I was a skinny, bookish girl, and I told him that he'd gone too far with what he said, and I punched him. I knocked his glasses off. Next day, his glasses were taped together, and the two of them never said anything to me again. Thanks, Dad, for the boxing lessons you gave me when we watched it while you were sick. I miss you. I'm proud of you. Good for you for standing up to him. My grade school bully used to chase me all over the playground every day, and it drove me insane. Finally, one day I jumped on the swing set and started swinging as high as I could. He lunged for me and I kicked him in the face. Somehow I didn't get in trouble, and he left me alone after that. Josh, if you're reading this, F you. When I was about 8 or 9, and had huge anxiety over everything and no friends, a boy decided that he was going to confess to me. I would hide in the bathroom to avoid him, and he told me I should just hear him out. A nice girl then tried to manipulate me into getting out because I looked silly eating in the bathroom, just to find out she was working with the boy to get me out of the bathroom. She tried to drag me out. After this, my mother went to the school and raised hell. They argued he was just being a boy in love, and my mum said, she has her trapped in a bathroom. What will he learn from this? That he can enter there and do whatever he wants? He stopped after this. We never interacted much after, thankfully. However, we graduated high school together, in different classes, because our school had preschool to high school. It was uncomfortable to even look at him sometimes in our break. Call me a cynic, but as someone who has lived through the "we agree this is a problem and we will do the work to correct it" talk, only to see nothing change, I'm having trouble believing the school is doing more than paying lip service. I really, really hope I'm wrong. I mean, OP will find out soon enough if nothing is changing. There are ways to raise hell and force change in schools, especially if multiple parents are actively doing so. It'll be a pain in the ass, but it is doable. My husband says I cheated because I texted my ex in Ukraine. I've been married to my husband for 4 years now. We have been together for 7, we have a 1-year-old. I had only one ex and I had him blocked even before I met my husband. My ex had moved back to Ukraine, that ended our relationship eventually a decade ago. Now that the war is happening, I've been thinking about him and his safety, and I wanted to see if he was okay. But I did not, as my husband will not like it. But a couple of weeks back, I was so worried and was having nightmares. I unblocked him, and my only concern was if he was alive. He was, and had posted on his page that there were funds collected for Ukraine, but it never reached them, as people were pocketing the money. I was so sad to hear it, and I responded asking for some authentic ways to send help and resources. He responded that he was happy to hear from me, and he sent me a few links and contacts. That was the end of the conversation. I had essentially sent only one text. The next day, I asked my husband if we could send some money to help the Ukrainian people. He frowned and said he'll think about it. This could be because of his aversion to my ex, and also because our finances are a bit tough. Then he texted later from work saying that we could send, and asked to wait to find the best ways. I showed him the links and said that these are authentic. He asked how I know, and I told him the truth. He immediately stopped replying and came home. He asked me to get out. I showed him the texts and said that's all I've spoken, and I told him how I've been feeling about the war and that I tried to speak to him about things but he was dismissive. He said I've cheated on him and asked me to leave or that he will. I broke down crying and he packed a bag and left. He has sent an email saying he will forgive me and come back if I write down an acknowledgement and apology that I committed adultery and will never do it again. I refused, and today he sent me another email that he will file for divorce by the end of the month. I've apologized several times over the last few days and have promised to go to therapy. My ex is blocked again. I simply don't know what else to do. Please help. Edit. Adding the following to help answer some questions in the comments. My ex and I parted amicably. I didn't even ask him how he was. Just seeing him active on his page let me know he was alive and was fine. The only message I sent was, "Can you point me to resources that are authentic and will not be pocketed by others?" He then replied with links as well as a text saying that he is happy to hear that I was looking to help. That's all. I didn't even respond to that. There's absolutely no past that can contribute to this fear, but my husband has always hated the mention of the country too. I tried to ask once to see if he'd be okay if I reached out, but even when I asked casually that we should check in on people that we know there, he said no need. We'll hear if they died. That's all. Now he's asking for verbal acknowledgement of cheating if I don't want to put it on paper. This husband sounds like he's manifesting the cheating to happen. I know it happened, I just know it did, and I'm gonna keep mentioning that it's happened until it does happen. This is just so abusive from the husband over nothing. Do you not trust your partner? Is there something going on that we need to be talking about, Mr. Husband? What is this response? I hope you're okay, OP. I would get the hell away from this guy. And now in the comments, your husband seems like he was waiting for you to make the alleged mistake. Yeah, he is way too eager to leave his wife and baby for something so trivial. I really don't think it's anything other than blackmail. Totally. He jumped on this like a starving dog jumps on a steak. He either has wanted to get divorced, is cheating himself, and wants her to be too so he isn't the only bad guy, or wants another way to control her. OP, tell him you will not admit to something you didn't do, as you serve him papers. The same, I was thinking. Cheaters become insecure and aggressive when they suspect their partner is cheating, because they know they are guilty in the first place. Your husband will have to work this through by himself. You have not committed adultery. Get a lawyer and a therapist if you want one, and decide on what terms you want your future relationship with this man. Honestly, he sounds a bit unhinged. This is a text. How much of your life would be under his control for him to feel safe? Would he ever feel safe? This isn't on you. This is on him. Maybe his friends can talk him down, and even so, it could be worth questioning what is in yours and your child's best interest here. Exactly. It sounds like she has to walk on eggshells around him already. That is pretty miserable and abusive in my opinion. If I was OP, I would be taking a long hard look at my life to see if I truly was happy in this relationship. Apology that I committed adultery. This cannot be real. If it is, take advantage of your sin and get rid of your bonkers husband. A written apology that she committed adultery. What the heck does he want to do with that? What emotional abuse and blackmail is in her future if she stays? Isn't that a way to get a divorce / get more out of a divorce? Like if the other person cheats, you can get a divorce without their agreement / without the separation period or something. I feel like I remember hearing something like that before, but I have no real clues, so I could be wrong. That's exactly what this is. It sounds to me like he's planning on divorcing anyways, and is just looking to get more out of the settlement. Why do you need to go to therapy? It's your husband that needs it. He also sounds like a controlling person, and it doesn't sound like the first time this has happened to you. If he's offering a divorce, I'd take it, but make sure you don't lose out on the money, etc. And now to the update. I never expected the original to blow up the way it did, and I thank each and every one of you who took the time to comment and also to DM me. I read all the advice and some of the comments really helped make sense of things. Before the update, I wanted to address the questions that came up. I and my husband are neither from Ukraine or Russia, so no political agenda here. I did not dream of my ex, but the situation in Ukraine. Also, we've sent money to charities and people in need, so it wasn't unusual to discuss that. On to the update. It is long, and I can't begin to explain what I'm feeling about the stuff that went down in the last couple of weeks. Almost immediately after posting the update, I called my husband and told him that I was ready to give him what he wants. I just wanted him to come. And we will do it in person in a coffee shop near our place. I got a babysitter and called his brother and his wife to accompany me during this conversation, as I didn't want to be gaslit. I planned to tell the entire story, and also that I will not be admitting to adultery. And if he needed to divorce me, he could, but I won't be giving him anything. He sounded smug and happy on the phone. It was an entirely different story when we met. The moment my husband saw his brother and sister-in-law, he completely changed attitude. He came up and kissed me. He spoke to me as if we hadn't been fighting the last couple of weeks. I just started crying, and he tried to tell it off to the others that I was just tired. But somehow, I got to a point where I was able to tell the whole story. My brother-in-law was furious. He took all of us to his house, and we sat down for a 4-hour talk. It was the worst moments of my life. There was so much screaming, mostly me, crying and swearing. Apparently some commenters were spot on, thinking there was more to this than what I knew. It goes back a decade. Just before my ex left to Ukraine, he did a 3-month course which included working in a firm that my husband interned in. They were acquaintances, and apparently my husband saw me when I met my ex outside the building a few times. He asked my ex about me, and once he found out that we were together, he backed off. That very day, my husband went to his brother and said that he was going to break us up and that he would marry me someday. But almost within the month, my ex left to Ukraine and we broke up amicably a year from then. Once my ex exposed something on Facebook indicating a breakup, my husband reached out to him and asked to set us up. My ex refused, and my husband found someone else to set us up, and that's how we met. Once he got a chance to meet me, my husband reached out to my ex and asked him to block me and assure him that he would never try to get me back. My ex refused, but he finally agreed to ask me to block him, and if I agreed, so be it. And that's the reason I blocked him. My ex asked me, and he said that it would be best for us both. I found it insulting and immediately blocked him, and he stayed blocked. Following which I met my husband, dated, engaged, and married. So for the last 8 years, my husband has been manipulating every single situation around me. And for him, it's always been a threat that my ex refused to block me or even stop trying to get back at some point. And the reason for the extreme reaction now was because, wait for it, my ex reached out on a WhatsApp group that my husband is part of, asking for help to accommodate some members of his family. So my husband was paranoid that he would reach me. And he was very weird with me because he was always suspicious that I was secretly in touch with him since the war started. And he knows that I break easily, and thought by punishing me to write this acknowledgement of adultery, he'll be able to hold it over my head all my life. And I would give him access to control all my communications, and he can monitor my every move. Once all of this came out, from both my husband and some from his brother, my husband started crying and asking me to forgive him. He begged for another chance and said that he'll get help. I'll forever be grateful to my brother-in-law for what he did. He asked my husband to leave, he and his wife picked up some stuff from my house, and he set up their guest room, and that's where I'm staying since. He hasn't let my husband see me since. He apologized for all the things that he knew about, especially stuff before we got married, and he didn't tell me. My husband has been trying to reach me non-stop. I spoke to my ex to collaborate the story, and he apologized for his role. To be honest, I can't accept anyone's apology at this point. I feel so done, and I'm applying for divorce tomorrow. I'll be starting therapy next week. Thanks for reading and giving your input, but I really don't even know where to start and process this. I've left out a lot of details, and to be honest, I still feel like there's so much I don't know. I'm either numb or crying my eyes out all the time, but I appreciate each and every one who took time to check up. And sorry the update is long and not what people might have hoped. TLDR, my husband has always manipulated me, and I will be filing for divorce. And now in the comments, thinking he can forever emotionally manipulate you by somehow extracting a written apology from you is so weird. Like, even if it had all been true, he wouldn't have forgiven you anyway, but hold you as a prisoner that he can control to feel whatever he wants you to feel. Sick. The guy is an abuser. The fact that he chameleoned so fast in front of his brother and wife is the biggest indicator for me. Abusers know how to hide the parts of themselves they know would give them away. My father did it, and OP's soon-to-be ex does it too. Once exposed, they are the picture of remorse, but they only regret being found out, not their behavior. Wow, what an absolute freak he turned out to be. Glad to hear that you're getting the heck out of there. What a strange, strange man. Be very careful and cautious. These are the kind of men who will kill you. Find support from your own family and begin an escape plan of sorts, where you don't need to rely on him or other people within his family. Get a lawyer and keep track of all calls and any weird behavior. You may need to start doing a restraining order. Yeesh, he is a crazy person. Definitely do this, as his brother knew about it, and it sounds like maybe even assisted your husband's manipulations before. It's likely he might be willing to do it again, maybe even thinking it's for your own good to help you get back together with your husband. It's really important to have a support system that is not at all connected to your soon-to-be ex-husband. You definitely need to get a lawyer. Good luck. Hey coworker, I heard you broke up with your girlfriend. Could you set me up on a date with her? Talk about unhinged. I had a coworker do this to one of my friends, also a coworker, almost the same thing. My friend's boyfriend would come to work to drop off lunch or pick her up since he didn't live far and usually had afternoons off from class. Anyway, that's not the point. Another coworker always talked about how cute he was, yada yada yada. 2 years later, my friend and her boyfriend break up. Amicable, as there hadn't been a spark for a while. 2 weeks after they break up, my coworker asks why he isn't around anymore. My friend tells her, and then our coworker asks her to set her up with her ex. The part I don't get? Why didn't OP's husband just ask her out? All this nonsense about the ex wasn't even necessary. He didn't even know the ex, so he didn't need the ex's permission to date OP. Not that he needs permission in other scenarios. There was no need to manipulate the situation. At every point, the husband could have chosen to act like an actual human, yet instead chose to act like an alien who dropped on planet Earth the day that he met OP. I'm assuming it's because he didn't actually know her, just that he had seen her sometimes as a coworker's girlfriend, so he needed to go through actual people who knew her to get her contact info and where to find her. As in, like, he wouldn't have ever found her IRL without some serious stalking. Plus, people tend to be more comfortable if they have a mutual. It's a super wild story, but I don't think that's the wildest part of it. I expected the classic story of a cheater projecting onto their partner. Instead, we got a hard swerve into long-term manipulation. Our next post is titled, Tennessee, is it arson if I burn down a building that I own? So I just inherited my father's farm. It has a barn where my father used to spend time away from us, drinking and yelling. It's also where he would bring me and my siblings to give us beatings and lock us up for the night when he was mad at us. My brother and I want to burn down the barn with some of my father's possessions inside to relieve ourselves of the memories. Can we pour gasoline and set the barn on fire, or would it be arson? Thank you. And now in the comments, contact your local fire department to see if you can burn it down as a training exercise for them. That way you'll have help on hand to prevent the fire spreading, and they can help you with any necessary permitting process. Depending on the material used in construction of the barn and its usage history, when not used to abuse children, there could be hazardous materials present that you shouldn't burn or that could create toxic fumes. And OP says, I hadn't thought of this. I think it's mostly wood and old tools, but who knows? Understand the intent of just setting it yourself, but checking with the fire department is sort of the correct we have laws approach. The reason they are typically notified is that when people want to burn giant things, they generally use too much accelerant, and the fire either gets out of control or they hurt themselves. The fire department does this all the time, and should be more than happy to hose down stuff around the building before you light it to make sure it doesn't spread, and basically help you make a bitchin' fire that torches the barn without hurting yourself. You don't have to disclose why you want to take the barn down if you don't want, if you're comfortable talking about it. It may help them understand that you are not an arsonist to watch out for. I totally get it, and be safe. And OP says, that's exactly what we want. We'll definitely be calling them. And now on to the update. Hi everyone, came here to give an update as many people asked. The burning of the barn finally happened. We went to the fire department and asked about a controlled burn. They said that it might be okay under certain conditions, but they had to do an inspection first. They made us remove all that could have produced toxic fumes and pollution, like old tires and the ruins of a tractor. The wood was dry and there was almost no paint left, so they said that it was fine to burn. They were actually glad for the opportunity because they had a new guy to train. They said they would do the protection of other buildings and nearby bush, and it would be a productive training session for them. When the day finally came, they let us start the fire. More of a symbol than anything, they did the real starting for safety reasons. The fire had to be helped a bit because it had rained a lot the days before, but then the whole barn was engulfed at once, and it was beautiful in a way. I must say it burned spectacularly well. There was almost nothing left in the end, which is exactly what we wanted. For those of you who were worried about us burning valuable stuff, we did keep some tools and a pile of boards that we will sell, but there wasn't much more than that. Except if you can find value in porn magazines from the 80s, empty bottles and nude girls calendars. These were my father's possessions, so we had a lot of pleasure in letting them burn. We added his clothes for good measure. We likely could have sold more of the barn wood, but there was more purpose for us in burning it all down. Probably wouldn't solve the deeper issues of what our father did, but it did bring some relief and some sense of closure. Unfortunately, we couldn't throw the big barbecue party we wanted for the fire department. We did have some beers though, because of COVID restrictions, but we all decided to do it later, hopefully next summer. The firemen were real bros, real cool, but professional, and they seemed to have as much fun as we did. We are really thankful for their help. You rock, guys. And now to the comments. The most important part of arson is the friendships you make with the firefighters along the way. There's something cute about my mental image of the firefighters exclaiming, "Ooh, we have a new guy. Can we help you burn this? For training purposes? Win-win." Narrator: they did not, in fact, have a new guy to train, but really wanted to burn down the barn, and it was their best excuse. They just had a controlled burn of a dilapidated house in my town to train firefighters from 5 towns. I'm glad OP was able to find that option. Everyone wins. My town recently used an old condemned bank building for training purposes. First cops had a turn, then SWAT, then the fire department finished it off. It was a fun week to drive by and see what shenanigans they were up to. I don't know why people were worried about them burning valuable stuff. It's just stuff. And if they wanted to burn it to rid themselves in some way of what their father put them through, then so be it. This made me happy. It might be regret from tossing valuables themselves, but I think it just makes a lot of people uncomfortable to realize that the possessions they've spent their whole life carefully or carelessly curating are more than likely going to end up being dropped in a bin at Goodwill, or in this case, burnt. I live to collect odd crap that makes me happy because I love it. Sure, some of it's worth money, but that means nothing to me really. I like to look at it and know that I have it. My kid's dad collects all kinds of crap because he likes it, and it's worth so much money, and he got it cheap, so it's so great. But it sits in boxes shoved in closets or the shed. If that dude dies before me, most of that expensive stuff is ending up in Goodwill because I have no clue on how to sell it or what it's worth. I don't have the time, energy, or knowledge of how to turn it into cash. Our next post is titled, "My fiance may die. His sister wants half of our house if he passes." So my fiance was in a car accident about a week ago. He has a 50-50 chance of surviving, though things have started to look up. His sister is also his birth mother. She got pregnant at 13, and his grandparents adopted him, so legally she is his sister. She has never had any involvement in his life. His adoptive parents died 3 years ago, and my fiance and I have 2 children together and own a house. We have been together since we were 13 and are getting married this October. Our house is nearly paid off, and I can't afford to pay half of the house equity to her by myself. I have no idea what to do, or if she even has a stake in the house. He is 23 and does not have a will. He also has a life insurance policy that she wants half of. I can't even get a lawyer to talk to me without coming in for a $600 plus consult. I'm hoping someone can give me some kind of direction so I can stop worrying about my children and I becoming homeless and focus on my fiance. This is in Ohio. Thank you. And now in the comments, if you're the beneficiary on the life insurance policy, you owe her nothing. The insurance company also won't give two shits about the will. You're not married? Is he on the birth certificate of the children? Generally, children have precedence over parents for inheritance. The Ohio interstate rules are, if a descendant is survived by a spouse and no surviving children or descendants of deceased children, the entire estate goes to the spouse. If a descendant is survived by a spouse and one or more children of the descendants, and if all the children who survive or who have descendants are also the children of the surviving spouse, the entire estate goes to the surviving spouse. If a descendant is survived by a spouse and one child, or the child's descendants, and if the surviving spouse is not the natural or adoptive parent of the child, the spouse receives the first $20,000 from the estate plus 1/2 of the remainder of the estate. The balance of the estate passes to the child, or, if the child is deceased, to the child's descendants. If there is no surviving spouse, but surviving children or their descendants, each of the children receives an equal share of the estate. Descendants of a deceased child divide that child's equal share. If the descendant has no surviving spouse or children, and no descendants of deceased children, the estate goes to his or her surviving parent or parents. Or, if both parents have died, in equal shares to brothers and sisters or their descendants. And OP says, our children are 2 and 1. Does this basically mean my children and I can continue to live in our home? Or is there some kind of legal process that has to take place for half the equity? I really appreciate your help. As the parent of your children, you also get to manage their assets, half of your house, until they turn 18. So you're going to be okay. Life insurance is all yours if you are the named beneficiary. After your fiancé pulls through, you should both get wills done so you can be sure in the future. And/or married. Being married solves quite a few of these issues. It's the sole reason my wife and I got married, as I had died of a heart attack at age 28, and my now wife kept my brain alive via CPR, and eventually paramedics came and got my heart going again. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital, basically mentally invalid, and during that time, my mum showed up and was basically like OP's mother-in-law/sister-in-law. When I finally was able to think for myself again, we got married, just to save some hassle for my wife and kids, as I personally owned a house and a vehicle, and had money saved up at the time that my mum wanted to claim. That's from what I've been told, as I was unable to understand any of this while in the hospital. Wouldn't have been hard to convince me to sign anything during that time. So we got married, and since then, besides the house, I've lost most of my assets while trying to get on disability. Many years now, been waiting for word from the state, living on a mix of crap I sold off, and help from family to keep afloat. So been unable to get a proper will done, but also have gotten our papers filled out at the hospitals around house for if we are unable to speak for ourselves. I forget what it's called, but the hospital has you fill out papers on what to do about life support and things of that nature if you are unable to say in person what you want. And now on to the update. My post got a decent amount of attention. I thought I would update since I still get really sweet messages from people wishing me well and praying for me and my family. My fiancé, now husband, did pull through. He's currently in our backyard setting up a tent to camp out with our 2- and 3-year-old boys. He was in a coma for over a month, and the doctors were pretty sure he would never wake up. His recovery was slow, and he still goes to physical therapy 4 times a week, but he's pretty much back to normal now, and we couldn't be happier. Although it was a horrible thing to go through, it changed both of us for the better. You don't realize how much the small things matter until they're about to be taken from you. He was appalled by his sister's actions when I finally discussed it with him. We recently both made wills and made sure there is no chance sister-in-law or brother-in-law will get any money if both of us were to pass, or God forbid our children too. We also chose godparents for our children and were expecting a baby girl in 2018. I really appreciated all of the sweet and thoughtful messages that I was sent. They definitely made me feel better on bad days to know how many people were praying for him. And now in the comments, this is why it's important to get wills drawn up, even if you're young, because things can happen with 0 warning. 3 children, 0 wills is a bad equation. No, 3 children, 1 marriage, 0 wills is better. Marriage plus wills should be non-zero. Crap like this is why my LGBTQIA+ friends fought for marriage equality and why I wholeheartedly support it. Much easier in an emergency like this to say, I'm the spouse, versus, let me show you all the legal paperwork we set up, I have to contact my attorney. Not to mention the number of hospitals and medical facilities that ignored the partner and let the family swoop in to make all the decisions. I can't believe the sister was able to sign a do not resuscitate. She wasn't his mum because he was adopted, no? I wouldn't expect them to defer to her over the mother of his children, who he is engaged to and living with. Sister or mother, she would legally be next of kin, one of the many reasons why marriage rights are so important. Totally. Every time people are like, marriage is only a piece of paper, I'm like, yes, and without one, someone can significantly screw up you and your loved ones' lives. As unromantic as it may sound, legality for healthcare and in case of death was much of the reason I wanted to get married. I love my husband immensely, and I'm glad that we have that bond, but I'm also glad we have that bond for legal reasons. I want him to be the one to have a say of my care, and I want him to inherit me. I have a fairly severe chronic illness, so even if we got married when I was 28, it felt and feels like a very real possibility that something could happen to me. 5 years on, and we have not needed it, thankfully. Hopefully it won't be an issue for another 60 years or so. Am I the asshole for telling my mum that my sister was a better mother than her? I, 17, was born when my sister Ari was already 18. She stayed at home until I was 10 doing her university and masters. So my parents obviously spoiled me because I was the miracle boy. But I always remember that it was Ari who taught me to be polite, chew with my mouth closed, how to be clean even, and be nice and all stuff like that. It was so much better when she'd make food than my mum. I remember when I was 9 that she and her boyfriend, husband now, took me to the park. Someone asked if I was her son, and she said close enough, and when I asked later on what she meant, she said that I was their practice baby. But when she left, and she's stayed gone. I've seen her a few times since. Like there was her wedding, my other sister's wedding, and just functions like that. Point is, in those 10 years, she kept me from being the spoiled brat my mum and dad were definitely turning me into, so even if she didn't want to see me in the last 7 years, I am still grateful. So, university applications are being filled out, and I want to do software engineering at Waterloo. My mum wants me to stay local. Yesterday, it turned into a big family Zoom meeting where Ari was involved. She said if staying with family was an issue, her family was moving to Kitchener and her husband had heard and he'd piped up, saying he'd love it if I could stay with them. I thought that was cool because I'd finally get to see them again and meet my niece, but my mum said no, you were not going. So I got really mad and I asked why not. She said you're going to need your mother when you start university. That made me angrier, and I said before Ari left, she was a better mum to me than you anyway. That didn't go well since my mum ran to her room to cry, so I couldn't see. My dad said that I was being ungrateful, and my sister, not Ari, told me to stop being an asshole. So, I don't know. I'm gonna go with not the asshole for this one because, I don't know, that just seems kind of out of the blue and manipulative of your mum to go crying. I can see why she would be hurt from that comment, but I also can see why you would be hurt that they're trying to keep you from going to college. You're of age to go and make your own decisions, and here they are guilt-tripping you to stay with them instead. What, you don't need your mother if you're going to university, in fact. Many people do fine without their mother, and they don't have them also running to their rooms crying and guilt-tripping them. So I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one. And now in the comments, not the asshole. I'm going to guess that your sister is keeping her distance for reasons that have nothing to do with you and everything to do with your parents. I would recommend some damage control. Apologize to your mum, but make it clear to her that the decision about where to go for university should not be based on a boy needing his mother, but about what is best for you and your education. You are going to be legally an adult after all. This would totally be the vibe that I got too, if not for the park thing though. Like, okay, maybe telling a stranger close enough when asking if OP is her kid, I can kind of see, but then telling OP that they are her practice baby is kinda off. I could be totally off base, but I get the feeling that there's also some other stuff going on that OP isn't aware of, where their mum may have reasons to not favor the arrangement either. Don't get me wrong, the mum's immediate "you'll need your mum" comment isn't great either, but I just don't think OP has the full picture of the overall dynamic. It's not unheard of for a baby from a teenage parent to be passed off as a younger sibling instead. I'm not saying that that's what's happened here, but the age gap would be right, and it would explain both Ari's comment and his mum's reaction. It's unlikely nowadays, but not impossible. Famous examples: Jack Nicholson's older sister was actually his biological mother, and his mother was actually his grandmother. He had no idea about this until the 70s, after both women were dead. And OP says, "Just saw this. It's not what's happened here. I've seen photos of my mum pregnant with me, and have seen the video they took after I was born. To be honest, I figured it was pretty unlikely. It's the sort of thing that would be a lot harder to hide nowadays. Plus, less social pressure to hide it. Plus, several of your other comments mentioned having a couple of sisters in between you and Ari. I got the impression that Ari was parentified and did more raising than maybe even you realize, especially when you were a baby. Obviously, she probably doesn't want to be near your parents, but maybe she needed space from you because she was forced to raise you and didn't want to resent you for it. No assholes here. Call Ari in private and talk this out. It sounds like she 1, knows how your parents can be, and 2, can help you figure out what to do. It sounds like you should plan on going to her place for uni. The mother is very much an asshole here for trying to take away a wonderful opportunity from OP for completely stupid, non-valid reasons. I'm Asian, and I'm totally getting Canadian Chinese vibes from this family right now, and can relate. And OP says, was it that obvious? Clues like you being the miracle boy, huge age difference from older sister, your sister living nearby for uni, and that your parents want to keep you near. You will likely find that they want you to look after them when they are old. I'm half Korean and half Caucasian, and my mom, Korean, blew up at me for wanting to go to university a couple states away. She wanted me to remain local. Probably the only reason that I'm able to go to the university that I'm at now is because my dad, Caucasian, stepped in and supported me in that. I totally get the situation you're in. I wish the best for ya, and also not the asshole. And now, onto the update. So I've gotten a lot of DMs, so I'm updating because people seem to be really worried. Pretty much, when my mum came to my room to talk to me about what I said, I'd already decided that I was going to apologize. You guys made it clear that I needed to do that much. She asked if I meant what I said about Ari being a better mum than her, or if I just said it to hurt her. It is true. I said it was because I was upset that she doesn't want me to go, so I just said that and apologized. We hugged, and she said that we would talk about it later. What I said to my mum did work its way through my sisters. It went from Isla to Sarah, and from Sarah to Ari. I got a FaceTime from Ari where she reminded me that she taught me that it was wrong to lose my temper like that, but with my mum, she gets it. She seemed proud when I said I apologized. I wanted to say thanks for all that she did for me, but it felt wrong over FaceTime. She did tell me that she's planning on having the whole family over to her new house in Kitchener after they move for my niece's birthday. She made it clear that if I get into Waterloo, I'm staying with her or coming over as much as I can. Now, here's where it gets wacky. My mum's cousin, who is like the head of that side of the family, found out what happened. He wasn't on the Zoom because he's really busy. He found out and scolded my mum and went on about how great a school Waterloo is and how selfishly she is holding me back and how she's trying to keep me as her baby forever. Isla eavesdropped on the whole thing and told me everything our uncle said to mum. It honestly makes me wonder if things between Ari and me are like what happened between my mum and him. So, my mum told me she was wrong about Waterloo and I had her support to stay with Ari. She told me her permission means that I have to call her every night, text good morning every morning, no partying, no girlfriends, be a good uncle, and treat Ari with respect. And I got into Waterloo's engineering, and we went to Ari's new home for my niece's birthday party and spring break in March. I tried to tell Ari and her husband how I feel and how thankful I am for how Ari raised me, but I blubbered and couldn't say anything, and she just pulled me in and hugged me and kissed me on the forehead like non-stop for minutes while kinda crying. Then gave me such a tight hug and said that I'd always be their first son. My brother-in-law took me to Waterloo, and it is so cool. My niece's birthday party was also great. She is so cute. I told Ari that I'd be willing to babysit, but she strictly told me my only priority would be my studies. When we left, Ari gave me a huge hug and said she couldn't wait for me to come. So, thank you guys for all your support and advice. And now in the comments, that's great that you are pursuing what you want and reconnecting with your sister, but your mother's demands are ridiculous. Coming from parents very similar, I'd advise you play along now, but start making boundaries when you go to college. Soon you will be an adult, you will have a job and responsibilities that may not allow for constant communication with your mother. You may make meaningful and/or romantic connections with other people that you'll want to pursue. That is natural. Your parents won't handle it well, but as time goes on, it should get easier. I wish you the best. No drinking, partying, or girlfriends, and you have to text every morning and call every night? That's insane, in the most overbearing way possible. Get yourself a text message automator to text good morning and good night every day. They exist out there. Or just tell mom no. Learning how to establish and enforce healthy boundaries is an important skill to know as an adult. The no dating thing is such an Asian mum thing, and they also will turn around and ask their 28-year-old son who has never dated anyone why he isn't married yet. Right? My parents kept reminding me throughout high school and college, no dating, but right after graduation, they asked if I was going to get married soon. They were confused when I said, to who? There is no one. My parents made me break up with my first girlfriend in college, and after college, they had the audacity to ask me if I have a girl in mind for marriage. I am still beyond mad. This is remarkably good communication for what I thought was going to be a shit show. I'm glad everything turned out so well, and no bridges seem to be burned. None at all. The way the whole family communicates and handles problems is impressive. Opie got the best older sister anyone could wish for. Our next post is titled, My mum lied to me, and my real dad, late 30s, just showed up for the first time. Sorry if this is incoherent, but my mind is racing right now. My dad died when I was 8 years old. Well, the man who I thought was my dad did. My mum dated other men, but she has never remarried or had a serious live-in boyfriend, so I've basically been without a dad since I was 8. But earlier today, this man came into my work. I work at a movie theater in the concession stand, by the way, so this man came in and kept letting people go ahead of him in line until I was done helping the customer that I was with. I didn't think anything at first, but this guy was kinda nervous but trying to talk to me. He asked what I recommended to eat and asked what kind of movies I liked. He seemed friendly but shy, and I was just being polite and making conversation like we're supposed to with customers. Anyways, he paid and left, and I didn't see him when his movie finished, 'cause it was busy. Or maybe he didn't even watch a movie. I don't know. Anyway, I got off work a little bit ago, and when I got home, that same man was in my living room talking to my mom, and it kinda creeped me out, and my mom started panicking when I asked who he was. And she just kept saying he's no one, he's leaving. But the man said that he wasn't leaving until we talked, and said she needs to tell me the truth. Well, you can guess from the title, he said he's my dad. I just felt this twist in my stomach. My mom started rambling, saying my dad that died was my real dad, and how much he loved me and took care of me, and that this doesn't change that. The thing is, something happened last year that made me question my mom about my dad and my medical history. She said she didn't know anything about it, but today I just yelled at her that she could have told me then and there that he wasn't my biological father, but she didn't. I asked if this man was telling the truth, and she just started crying and nodding. I guess I didn't notice at the theater, because it was never something that I would even think of, but looking at him, it's pretty clear that we are related since he looks so much like me. Or I guess I look like him is more accurate. He tried to talk to me and swore he never knew that I existed or he would have been in my life. My mum didn't deny any of this, and I asked her if this man was dangerous or an abusive ex or something. He was offended, and she assured me that it wasn't that at all. She wanted to sit down and talk, but I just felt so nauseous and overwhelmed, so I just grabbed my keys and told my mum that I was staying at my best friend Josh's house for the night. I came here, and Josh was sympathetic and let me vent, but he fell asleep and now I'm just here awake, and my brain won't shut off. I feel so betrayed by my mum. How could she not tell the truth? When I was little, I understand, but I'm old enough to know where I come from. It feels so unfair that she denied me a father for half my life. I loved my dad that died, and I still miss him, but I've wanted a father for so long. There is so much I've gone through where I feel like having a dad would have been so much better and easier. I love my mum, and she's been incredible in raising me, but it's not the same as having a dad. Especially when this guy is my actual dad, and it seems like he would have been there if he knew. I don't know what to say to him, or to my mum. I know I have to go home eventually, but I just don't know what I'm supposed to say or do. He probably hates me and thinks I'm a crybaby because I cried and stormed out. I feel lost. I'm just gonna have to stop you there, OP. I don't think he's gonna think you're a crybaby. It's weird that you would put that on yourself and think that. Obviously, he's very emotional. Obviously, you're very emotional right now. Your mum has lied by omission and never told you that you actually had a different father out there. If anything, you should be directing all your anger and upset at her and not at him for this one. And I don't think in any way he would think you're a crybaby. I think, this is a lot to be going through. It's understandable that you're upset. But let's see what the comments have to say. First of all, your emotions are valid. This is a lot, and I'm not the one going through it. I think you should hear your mom out whenever you decide to go back home. She has to have some kind of explanation, whether if it was what was best at the time or not, and at the same time, it's okay to be upset at her. You can't have that time back with your dad, but I hope that everything eventually will work out, and you get the explanation and honesty that you deserve. Take all the time you need, whether it's forgiving your mom, or maybe having a relationship with your dad, but if he wants to be a part of your life, that is also on you if you want that. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And OP says, thank you. She's my mom and I still love her. I'll always love her. I really want to believe she has a good reason for not telling me, and I want a relationship with my dad. Or at least I want to have a real talk with him and see how it goes after. I wonder if your dad, who died when you were 8, went to his grave thinking you were his biological child. Yeah, this is a concern. Was OP's mum married to the original dad, cheated with bio dad, and now faces with owning up to what happened? Your dad will understand. I hope you and your dad make up for lost time. And OP says, thank you, I hope so too. I really hope I didn't ruin it with that first impression. You didn't ruin anything. You were blindsided, mate. Really pulling for things to go your way. Right now, you and your biological dad are dealing with years of being lied to, and you are both hurting. I don't know why your mum hid the truth. Hopefully you'll find that out too. You have a person out there who says that he didn't know that you existed, and would have been there for you all these years if he had known. He missed his child's first word, first step, school, all those things that dads love to be a part of, and he's feeling guilty for something that is not his fault, that he wasn't there for you all these years. I hope you can get to know your bio dad and have a good relationship with him. You've been given a gift, a chance to find out more about your ancestry and to have a fuller family than you did before. Good luck and be in peace. And now onto the update. I know I didn't reply to any comments after the first few hours that my original post was up. I woke up the next morning and saw a bunch of new comments, and though I didn't reply, I did read all of them, good and bad. I appreciate all the advice given and kind words spoken, but like many people suggested, the only thing I could really do was talk to the both of them to figure out what the real story was. So I went home and talked to my mum. I was much calmer, with a clearer head, and was ready to hear what she had to say. I probably learned more than anyone should ever have about their own conception. Turns out my father really isn't an abusive ex. My mum didn't cheat on my adoptive dad or anything shady like that. I'm just the product of a one-night stand. My mum said that she went out drinking by herself at a bar and met my dad, who was celebrating his 25th birthday alone. She said she had just been dumped by her fiance, not my adoptive dad, different man, a week before that because she had learned from her doctor that it was virtually impossible for her to have children naturally. She said her and my dad used a condom, and yet somehow she still got pregnant with me, and I'm her miracle baby considering the circumstances. She went back to the hotel that he took her to after she found out she was pregnant, but they couldn't find any info on my dad ever staying there. He didn't give her his actual first name, which is explained in more detail later in post. She said this was before social media was a thing, so she couldn't just search him online like we can do nowadays. So she decided that she would just raise me on her own. She also admitted that she just panicked when my bio dad showed up because to her, he was literally just a guy she knew for one night 17 years ago. She didn't really know who he was now, or if he was going to try to get custody of me, or if I was going to want to run away with him or something. She admits she would have been calmer from the beginning, and maybe we could have all talked it out and sorted it out that night, but I don't blame her for it. As for my adoptive dad, the man that raised me, she said she didn't meet him until I was almost 2. They got married when I was 3. He officially adopted me after they got married. She showed me the adoption certificate. Reflecting on it now, I realize I've never seen pictures of he and I when I was a baby, just pictures of me as a toddler and up. She said he accepted me as his own and loved me and being a father to me. I told her my bio dad showing up doesn't rewrite history. I'll never not see my adoptive dad as my father. If anything, it makes me love him even more that he treated and loved me as his own flesh and blood. I also ended up talking to my dad. He left his number, which my mum gave to me. We met up for lunch. He confirmed my mum's whole story. I gave him crap about using a fake name, and it wasn't so cut and dry. He said he goes by his middle name, which is what he told her that night. He showed me his business card, which does have the name he told my mum that night, and I've since looked him up, using the name that he gave my mum, which nowadays he is very easy to find with it, and his entire online presence uses his middle name. He has comments on Facebook from his friends and family calling him that name going back years. Apparently, he only goes by his actual first name for legal and business reasons, like checking into a hotel. He said that night he was depressed that his best friend didn't live to celebrate their 25th birthday together, as they had the same birthday. And that's why he drove to our town to get away from everyone and everything back home for a night. He apologized a million times, and said that he would have been in my life if he had known, especially because I inherited a medical condition from him, and it really sucked dealing with that, and having to learn to adjust to it alone. He was diagnosed with it when he was 19, so he knew what I went through. I could tell he genuinely felt awful about it. I asked him how he even found out about me, and apparently he has a son who is only 5 months younger than me. So his ex-wife, son's mum, is a teacher, and she saw a picture that my school's website posted of the academic team that I'm on. She had sent it to my dad, thinking I might be related to him because we look so alike. He said he has a brother that he hasn't spoken to in over 20 years, so they both initially thought that I could be his nephew, but he found my Instagram, which is public, and he said when he saw a picture of me and my mum on it, he instantly recognized her, and he knew that I was his. And I know people will ask, but no, he did not cheat on his ex-wife with my mum. He didn't meet her until a couple months after that night with my mum, and he even admitted that they only got married because she got pregnant early in the relationship, and they're divorced now because they're not actually compatible. He offered proof, and to even call her himself right there to confirm, but I told him it wasn't necessary. He had visited my mum earlier that day that he visited me at work, and confirmed with her, even though he already knew between my face and the math lining up. But he said he went to the movie theater anyway, because even though he had seen pictures of me, he said that he had to see me for himself in person. He said we still need to do a DNA test to establish paternity, and so he can add me on his insurance. But between our faces, my birth date, and us having the same rare medical condition, it's obvious he's my dad. Even the waitress made a nonchalant comment about us being father and son. He asked if we could start having visits to get to know each other, and of course I said yes. I want to know him. Even though I still feel some anger at him, and I don't really know even exactly why to be honest, I want to have him in my life. My mum said that I can't go to his house for Christmas or even at all, he lives an hour away, until she feels comfortable with me leaving to visit him, but she said that he can come visit on Christmas night and we'd go from there. At the end of lunch, I brought out my debit card to pay my half of the meal, and I didn't really know what the etiquette is for a first lunch with a bio parent as a teenager. He just laughed and said I'm his son and I don't ever have to pay for anything when I'm with him. I don't know why, but that made me feel really good. And then he made a joke about owing my mum 17 years of child support anyway, which really just eased the whole situation. He walked with me to my car and gave me a hug, which made me start crying. I know it's cringy, and I was embarrassed that I was crying in the middle of a diner parking lot, but I just felt an instant connection with him when he hugged me, even though he's still basically a stranger to me. He said some stuff to me while he was hugging me, and just let me cry for a couple of minutes. It's still early, I know, but I can just tell that he's a good man. Regardless of who he was when he met my mum, and whatever happened that night, I mean, he sought me out after learning about me, so that has to count for something, right? He could have pretended that he never saw my Instagram, or even after talking to my mom and her sending him away, or after meeting me at the movie theater, or after I stormed out when he came to talk to me that same night. He had so many chances to walk away, but he didn't give up. That shows me that he really does want to have a relationship with me. Anyway, now my issue is scrambling to find him a last-minute Christmas present. I have no idea what to get him. He's a lawyer, so from what I could tell Googling him and the address that he gave me, he's rich. He probably has everything he already wants. If anyone has any ideas what a man in his early 40s would want or be able to make use of as a Christmas gift, I would love some suggestions. And now in the comments, pictures of you from your childhood. Make copies and his own photo album. This was what I was going to say. Maybe add a bio of childhood with schools attended and any achievements. Also, maybe just like basic information so he gets to know who you are, like favorite color, small things like that. Favorite thing to do, favorite vacation ever taken, etc. And OP says, I like this idea. I don't know if it would come out very good since I only have a few days to put it together, but would it be a good idea to do this and then leave some pages empty and ask if we could fill those ones out together with new memories? Absolutely do that. That would make his day so much better to know that you want to create memories together like that. And OP says, I will. I told my mom and she said that it's a great idea and she's going to help me choose some pics. I just have to go buy a photo album and make copies of some pictures tomorrow, but I think it's completely doable in time for Christmas. Dude, you have a brother. And OP says, yeah, and we're practically the same age, which is kinda weird, but exciting. My dad said that he hasn't told him about me yet. He wants Christmas night to just be me and him, since my half-brother will be at his mum's house, and so do I, to be honest. I don't know if I could handle trying to get to know 2 new family members at once. It's kinda nerve-wracking enough already with just my dad. My favorite part of all of it was when OP started crying in his dad's arms. Not because I take joy out of a teenager's difficulties, but because I feel like he was so factual throughout the initial post and update that you couldn't get a real emotional read on him. To hear him feeling so overwhelmed really showed how much this meant to him, and it made me all the more happy for him, and the wonderful way that this turned out for both him and the dad. I really hope they continue to grow their relationship and that they continue making wonderful memories. I hope people told him on his original post that crying was nothing to be embarrassed about. It made sense that he was emotional, and that's a good thing. Men are allowed to cry. I was so glad his bio dad supported and held him when he cried. No toxic masculinity garbage. Honestly, sounds like mum hit it out of the park for a guy to have a one-night stand with. Just a shame times were different and she couldn't find him, because he sounds like a stand-up guy that would have been emotionally and financially supportive. Am I the asshole for refusing my wife's plans that she doesn't tell me about? I had a fight with my wife and I need some perspective because this is an ongoing issue. On Wednesday, we were talking about stuff in our garage. We don't use it for anything but storage right now, but she will be getting a motorbike in a few months' time. There is space for the bike, but it's a good motivator to do a clean out. Not an immediate urgent problem though. She said in passing, we should clear out all those boxes and get rid of the junk. I said, yeah, I need to sort through some of that stuff. And that's it. That's the whole convo. I'm not forgetting or skipping anything. That is literally it. Word for word. On Saturday, I slept late after a huge week and then was just chilling out. She seemed tetchy, asking me repeatedly what I was up to today and getting more annoyed when I said things that amounted to just chillin'. You? Finally, I asked if there was something she was wanting to do. As far as I know, we had no plans, so I figured on an afternoon reading and cooking, maybe binging some TV as we do when we have a couch day. She snappily asked if I was going to sort out the boxes in the garage. I said, today? I wasn't planning on it, and she said, remember? You have to sort the stuff out so we can get rid of the junk and clear the garage out. Well, yeah, I remember, but I wasn't going to do it today. But you need to move the junk. I want to sort out the rest of the stuff tomorrow. I said I was not really keen to do that specifically today, and asked if she had to do the cleanout this weekend, as we hadn't discussed that, and I was happy to do it with her. Just not on that timeline, as I'm working Sunday, so Saturday was my only day off in a 70-hour week. She was mad. So this is the recurring problem. I remember the conversation we had, and it was a general, we should do X. No time frames, no plan, no dates, no obvious reason for urgency. She then either truly believes or acts like there was a specific plan to do X at a specific time, gets annoyed when I'm not ready to do it, and then suddenly wants me to do it right now. This has happened a bunch of times. In my view, we certainly did not make a plan, and it was just a generalized idea. If you want to do something at X time, you need to say, let's do this at X time, and let the other person know. Don't you? Am I mad? I think it's unreasonable for her to keep assuming that whatever vague thing she says is a plan just because that's what she thought in her head but never actually said, and expecting me to jump to it the moment she actually says that she wants to do it now. She then gets mad that I won't just do it right now anyway, since I'm not doing anything. Am I being unreasonable to think that we should do X does not mean we will do X at the very next available opportunity? Am I missing something? And edit, please stop assuming that my wife is doing all the chores and managing the household work and that this is about me not doing enough at home. It is not the case. If anything, she is the one more likely to need reminders about doing chores and less likely to take initiative on deep cleans. She knows this, I know this. We talk and laugh about this regularly. This really isn't about our chore split or me wanting to be told to do stuff around the house. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. 1. I told my wife I didn't want to clean out the garage today / do the things that she decides she wants me to do when she hasn't told me that she wants to do them. 2. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, or my expectations to be told a clearer plan are not usual. Honestly, I'm on your side for this one. It does feel like a miscommunication from your wife, and instead of hearing where you're coming from on this one and understanding that she never set a time frame for this, she's being snappy, passive-aggressive, and angry at you. She is definitely coming across as an asshole in this situation. You work 70-hour weeks. This is your one day off. I can imagine you are goddamn run down, and cleaning the garage when you hadn't mentally prepared for that is not something on your mind immediately. I can understand her being mad if you guys had discussed this properly beforehand and set times for when this is going to be done, but to me it looks like she's picking fights that shouldn't ever exist. Not the asshole. And now in the comments, not the asshole. If she wants something done within a specific time frame, she should say that. If you work 70+ hours a week and have one day off, I can understand why you wouldn't want something like that sprung on you. It would be different if it was an urgent, time-sensitive issue, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. I will say that I am very specific about how and when I want things to be done, but I make it known up front, and I also ask to make sure the request is reasonable for the other person. For example, I would like for us to sort the pantry to get rid of expired items. I'd like to have it done by next Saturday. Does that sound good to you? Yes. I learned very early on in my relationship with my husband that "can you take the trash out" and "can you take the trash out now" are very different requests. I am always specific when planning on requesting his assistance with something, not because he's done anything wrong, just because I realized I have to share my full intent and not expect him to know what I mean now. OP is not the asshole, and put a dry erase calendar on the fridge. Tell her to put it on there in advance if she needs you. Everyone looks at the fridge. It's a great system for us. Everyone sucks here. You both are missing something. Communication. I get that you want to chill and just have a day of nothing after a long week. I've been there. I get that she wants to get X done after talking about it with you. I've been there too. You both could have compromised here. Spend an hour speed sorting through what you want to keep and spend the rest of the day chilling. Otherwise, it keeps getting put off until she absolutely needs the space, and then you are rushing to get it done last minute. Would your work week have been any different the next week, or the one after that? Instead of dropping hints, she should have said, "Hey, let's work on cleaning the garage." And instead of putting it off, you should have said, "Let's sort stuff for an hour, and then I want to chill because I've had a long week. You can keep working on it if you want." And OP replies, "Getting the things done is not so much the issue, to me, but the repeated thing where I feel ambushed with something that she insists we were going to do when it was never communicated. I think I have a right to have input when we do things too, and I think there is just a respect issue of actually discussing it with the person you expect to do the thing. Yes, my work week should be different next week. That's part of why I think it's up for discussion. I struggle with suddenly getting a change of plan sprung on me, even if it's you need to spend an hour doing this chore when you thought you were relaxing, so that's part of why I'm here to find out if it's unreasonable to want more notice that I have to get my brain into work mode. Neither of you are communicating well. When she says, "we need to get X done," you need to move the discussion to a timetable. When were you thinking? Because I only have one day off this week, so I need to decompress, chill, and want to spend quality time with you. Next week is a lot better. How about X or Y? Z afternoon could work too. And then she says, "Well, X would work best for me because then I can do the next part on C." Great. Can you put it in the calendar? Will do. And now on to the update. Well, this generated more debate than I expected. Thank you. I thought my expectation was obvious, seemingly kind of not. It's interesting to see how many people agreed that she was not communicating, but still said that I was an asshole for not making up for that communication deficit. I get it in a way, but also kind of not. We talked. As predicted, she laughed at the idea said so many times here that she is the one tracking and organizing and planning all the household stuff, and that this is about me not taking responsibility for the mental load of chores. That's not her or us. It sucks for women that that is so common that everyone assumed it here, but it is not what is happening. Here is what we figured out. She doesn't always think about whether she actually specified the plan or not. In her head, it's a plan, and she does have that thing of forgetting that not everyone is in her head. She gets the strong urge to do things now because she struggles to do things that she is not strongly motivated to in the moment. When I push back, she gets frustrated that the urge is blocked, and in that moment, she doesn't really see why planned or not matters so much. She is making it clear now that she wants to do it now, and she is frustrated that I can't just try to adapt spontaneously. We both hate committing to too much housework ahead of time because we both hate housework, and sometimes either or both of us want to bail on it. We can see how this is a problem, given I'm we have to plan, and she's do it when the urge strikes. We accept that we probably have to steel ourselves and do that more clearly together. She doesn't love planning ahead, generally. It actually came up that I'm usually the one to drag a timeline out of her, and she resists because she doesn't like committing like that. She's play it by ear, see how it goes. I prefer planning obviously, But I also need a little mental space to do it. She says things as they come to her head sometimes as a total tangent to what's going on. This means she'll say something offhand while I'm in the middle of something else. I agree because I agree, but I don't immediately stop what I'm doing to make a plan about it. Hence why I don't always say, as recommended, I can help you with that on X day because I don't know in that moment and my focus is elsewhere. I also assume that there is going to be another mention of when we do the thing because it's obvious to me that that is the next step, even if we didn't get to it in that moment. I need to be clearer about that with her and tell her if I can't plan it right now, but flag that I want to plan it. So our plan, for now, is that she needs to try to remember to tell me if she has a time frame. I need to try to ask if I need one, and if I don't have space right now to plan, I say, okay, I agree, but let's make a plan for that. And now in the comments, my mum does this. She makes plans in her head, assumes everyone else has agreed, and then gets surprised and angry when you have no idea what she's talking about. Same with my mother-in-law. I made a huge lasagna, why didn't anyone come over? Because you never said anything to anyone about it? Edit. Mother-in-law regularly feeds anyone who she hires to do work around the house, like painters, sprinkler guys, repair people, etc., so if you're willing to take out the trash or pull a few weeds, you're in for some stellar meals on top of the normal pay. But of course, she won't actually tell you ahead of time that she's cooking. I like posts and updates like this. OP seems level-headed about her relationship issue, solicits feedback, the couple actually talks, and we get to see them take steps to improve. It is refreshingly normal, mature, and sane compared to the usual batshit crazy posts where couples communicate worse than toddlers and don't understand why things aren't working. As you say, it is really refreshing to read a story about people acting like adults. Many stories here sound like a rejected Riverdale episode. I'm him, wife is her. Half of the things that we have been planning to do, I have to stop and ask if this is a conversation I was a part of, or if it's something that she's been thinking about. Add to that the fact that virtually every project she comes up with balloons from a couple of hours into a couple of days. Let's clean off the game shelves so we can stack the games neatly becomes, let's clean out every closet in the house. She then gets mad at herself for feeling like she gets nothing done when the game shelves have never been better organized, and that was exactly the thing that she set out to do. All of it eventually comes back to me because I don't want to help. I do want to help. I'm covered in sweat and my sinuses are like rivers of snot because of the dust that we stirred up, so I've been helping quite a lot. I also want to know what it is that we are doing so I know when I'm done. Our house needs work, just like everyone else's. There will always be more to do. The sense of done is done with this project, which I don't think is unreasonable to want to know. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to leave my friend's baby shower just because my ex didn't want her boyfriend to see me? She's not technically an ex since we were never in an actual relationship. I was back home for a few months almost 2 years ago. We hooked up for, I would say, 4 months until I flew back out of state for work again. Her and I didn't see each other again, just recently at this baby shower. I guess they became friends through this mum group, as my friend has one other kid, and they became good friends, so that's why she was also invited. And I was gonna say hi when I saw her there, but she ignored me. That's when I noticed that she was there with her boyfriend and their baby, so thought that it was better to keep my distance. But she actually approached me like 10 minutes later by the bathroom in the house. She asked me if I could leave because she's with her boyfriend, and it's just very awkward with both of us there at the party. But I haven't even approached them at all, so why would it be awkward if we don't interact during the party? She wasn't letting it go. She actually told me please, and it's complicated. I told her if her boyfriend doesn't know that we have a history, then he won't need to because I honestly don't care. All I'm doing is being here celebrating one of my close friends' day, so if she leaves me alone, I will leave her alone. That didn't end up being the case. They left not even an hour later. I kept my word though about not going near them, but one of her friends told me her boyfriend saw me, and for whatever reason they started arguing. It wasn't subtle either. They went to the front of the house, but you could still hear what sounded like them raising their voices at each other. And a few minutes later, I saw her walking to my friend, probably telling her bye, but she definitely looked right at me after that, like she's super pissed. Everyone at the party was confused after, so they were all talking about it for the rest of the time. For the first time in a long time, she texted me since I never changed my number. She told me thanks for ruining a party when all of this could have been avoided. I asked her what could have been avoided, but again, she doesn't tell me. She just thinks that it's my fault for whatever crap went down. Then after my friends found out she asked me to leave, they think I'm the asshole for not doing that. The whole party was meant for my friend, and it was turned into some drama just because I wouldn't leave, even if it was for some unknown reason. I don't know what to think now, or why it was such a big deal that we were at the same party when neither of us even talked at all. Am I the asshole for being the cause of a scene because I denied her request? And now in the comments, info, how old is her kid, and could it possibly be yours? This seems like a huge overreaction for a previous hookup with no issues and commitments to each other. And OP says, damn, you guys really have me scratching my head now with this one. I didn't get to see him much, but I'd say probably under a year old, but definitely not like a newborn. Well crap, now I'm more lost. Typical pregnancies are 40 weeks/9 months. If the kid is also 9 months old, that's a year and a half ago. Depending on when your hookup ended, it's a possibility. If you have had no prior contact with the boyfriend, it doesn't make sense for him to be so angry for you to just be in the same room, especially if you guys were avoiding each other. And OP says, I need to talk to her now. Well, first I could be wrong about how old the kid probably is, but yeah, this is some crap that I need to know ASAP. Holy crap, man, honestly, I really don't know what to think. There is also a chance that she cheated on him with you and later confessed to him about it. You think so? She never told me anything about being with anyone. It would make sense though, this is way too confusing. I think it's more likely than the kid being yours, and it's not like she'd advertise that she was in a relationship if she was planning on cheating. The boyfriend could also just get super jealous, or maybe he just had some issues with you specifically. All I can do is speculate. Even if the kid was yours, she clearly doesn't want you in his life if she never told you about him. So you might just want to apologize to keep the peace and distance yourself from the both of them. Not the asshole. If she would have kept her distance, none of this would have happened. You realized and kept your distance, and it was 2 years ago. If you are still stuck on a hookup from years ago while in a relationship, there is an issue. And you're also a friend of the host, so she has no right to tell you to leave. And OP says, she did keep her distance aside from talking to me in private. I don't know what his deal was, but it was the fact that he saw me at that party at all is what set him off apparently. My question is, how did he know who you were without her telling him? Like, if she wouldn't have said anything, I don't think there would have been an issue. And OP says, guessing that maybe she told him or something prior to us bumping into each other at the baby shower? She looked freaked out, so obviously neither of us were expecting to see each other. And now, onto the update. Damn, I don't know what to say, but everyone really wanted to know what happened. Gonna start off first and say that I spoke to my friend, whose baby shower it was, to apologize for the drama. I had no idea that that was going to happen, just so she hears it from me, like a first commenter suggested I do. She had no idea my ex and I had a past, but she told me it was fine. The party was awkward after, but that's on them, and she doesn't blame me. It was great to hear because this was meant for her to celebrate her baby, and as her friend, I wanted to be there celebrating with them. So I got all the confirmation from her, plus you guys, that I wasn't the asshole. Obviously, all of you want to know the answer to the main question if this baby was my kid, or what was their deal after all. We did talk on the phone. She went first and beat me to that topic. Probably read my mind because she started off with telling me she had something important to talk about after apologizing for blaming me about the party. To sum it up, we agreed to get a paternity test done ASAP because I couldn't handle this curiosity. It was already driving me crazy. He is definitely my kid. I've looked at the results a million times since they got back, but she already knew my son was mine. She found out that she was pregnant after I left. She didn't want to tell me because when I went back for work, she wasn't told until after I'd already flown back, and that hurt her. Since it seemed like I didn't care much, she was scared that I wouldn't be willing to go back and help take care of our kid. This was hard for me to hear. I was actually crying when we talked about it in person. I'm still in shock learning this, but she let me come meet him a day ago, and it was emotional AF. Holding him really got me. He's so damn big already. That whole day I spent it with my son, and then we stayed up late talking about how we're gonna do this then. This is new to me, so we're gonna go with the flow, but holy F, I have a son. That's so crazy, right? As far as her boyfriend, it seems like it wasn't cheating, at least from what she tells me and the little bit of info that I got from him, which he was pissed about. They weren't exclusive either, but after she got pregnant, he was only willing to be around as long as I wasn't. And obviously, seeing me pissed him off because he thought that I was still living out of state. It's a mess right now, but he doesn't want to be around if I am, but my son is my kid. She told me not to worry about their relationship because the only thing she wanted was to make sure my son had a dad in his life. Even if I've got no idea what I'm doing right now, being his dad is what I want to be for him. We already missed out on all this time, and I'm excited to see him again tomorrow. And now in the comments, wow, this is quite an update. Congratulations on your kid, and hopefully you can come up with a good way to co-parent. I wish you the best of luck with this. And OP says, a crazy way to end what happened. I'm glad I know now so that I can be there for him. I just want to say, you're awesome for taking this approach without a second thought. Yay for dads who were there and are happy to take responsibility. Congratulations on the unexpected baby. I bet you're a whirl of emotions right now. And OP says, you have no idea. I was anxious just by wondering if this baby is mine. Now that there is actual confirmation that he is, I've got so much going through my mind. I'm happy, sad, scared. Well, not scared in that I don't want to be his dad because I do, but scared because he's here, and I have done absolutely nothing to be ready for a baby all of a sudden, and I don't want to mess this up. As awful as it is that you found out this way, I'm so glad that you now have the opportunity to build a relationship with your son. All the best to you. And OP says, it sucks because I would have loved to be there while he was a newborn. I never got to hear his heartbeat the first time or witness his birth or be there for the newborn milestones. At least he's still a baby right now, and he can grow up knowing I'm his dad. He's not walking yet, so I will do everything to be there seeing his first steps. It's hard to think about the things you've missed, but there is just so much more ahead to look forward to, and hopefully you are going to be there for that, and he's going to remember you always being there. Good luck. I'm honestly thankful looking back at my life for all the hooking up and slutting around that I did. I never immediately lost contact with someone after sleeping together, so I can rest assured that I don't have any kids that I don't know about out there. Imagine if people just communicated from the beginning, right? It's a friggin' text if you don't want to call. So stupid these days. Though if the boyfriend just acted cool and they didn't fight about him being at the party, he probably wouldn't have found out about his kid. I really wonder about how bad the ex's relationship must be with a boyfriend for her to say not to worry about their relationship, especially considering that he'd be that jealous and react so badly in earshot of friends. Plus, it sounds like boyfriend isn't filling the role of dad at all. Like, yikes. I hope OP can bond and have a full supportive relationship with his baby. Am I the asshole for calling off my and my husband's dinner date? So this goes a long way back. We have been married for 3 years and together since high school. He's seen me at my worst and we had twins 5 months ago. So yeah. I know that hormones are at an all-time high during pregnancy and after giving birth, but I don't think it lasts that long. Anyways, so I've never considered myself beautiful. I don't have a flat tummy, I am short, and all the other things women are self-conscious about. And now after our sons, I have so many stretch marks on my hips, breasts, stomach, and thighs, and my self-confidence is at an all-time low. I get annoyed pretty easily, and that is exactly what happened. One of my friends visited me yesterday, and she couldn't stop complimenting about how handsome my husband looks, especially taking care of our sons. She had passed those remarks before, but I ignore it most of the time. I never wanted to be the insecure, jealous, boring wife, because I am not. But now it's hard. I tried talking to him about my body issues so I could have a little bit of an idea how he feels about it, but he just tells me he doesn't know what I'm talking about, and that I still look the same to him, and I don't know if he's lying or telling the truth, and since I'm on maternity leave from work, these thoughts completely consume me. I recently saw a post on r/true off my chest about how a guy doesn't find his wife attractive anymore after the birth of their child. She's still in recovery, and that just breaks my heart. That post took any bit of self-assurance I had with it. And maybe that's why I snapped at him yesterday. My feelings were all over the place. When we were having dinner, my friend asked him what are we doing for Valentine's, and I knew what he had planned. Because that's been our routine for the past decade or so. We have a night out at the restaurant where he took me on our first date. It's about an hour drive away from where we live now. He said just that, and she started laughing and telling him about how boring our life is, and having the kids will mess up our lives even more so. He replied with, boring and happy, and the kids are a bonus. I felt awful. I don't know why, maybe because he should have elaborated more. She just shook her head. After she was gone, I fed the babies and put them to sleep. Before falling asleep myself, I told him to cancel the plans for Valentine's Day because I can't leave the kids alone. Which is not true, since my parents and his parents are completely capable of taking care of them in our absence. He was confused for a moment and told me to get some sleep. In the morning too, I was not very warm and welcoming towards him. I just can't get past my thoughts. He said we will talk today, and I don't think I'm ready for the confrontation. So, is it bad? Am I really being an asshole? I feel like a hot mess, and I need him to tell me, show me, I'm enough for him. I think you're going through a lot right now, and I think you are still dealing with a lot of postpartum stuff. Life seems very messy. It seems you've got one asshole of a friend clinging on, just saying absolutely disgusting stuff to you about your husband. That makes me question why you keep someone like that around in your life, who I'm sure would know that you're struggling right now, and yet comes and says these things in front of you and your husband. That is so disrespectful, and I question why you keep her around. As far as the judgment here, I think I have to go with you're the asshole because, you are lashing out at your husband. You are not communicating with him. From his point of view, he can only guess what's going on in your head and why you're doing the things you are doing. You're not giving him a chance to be open with you and really sort out a lot of these issues that are going on. At the end of the day, we're all human, we all go through a lot of crap, we all make mistakes. Still, from what you've shown me so far, I'd have to say you're the asshole. And now in the comments, kinda you're the asshole. You are feeling insecure, and it's very reasonable to want reassurances, but cancelling your regular date? From the sounds of it, you are being purposely emotionally distant and trying to avoid the discussion with him about it. You've been together a long time. You are both adults. Have a discussion. And OP says, yeah, I think I'll do that. I can't just shut down myself like this and let it all fall apart. Please see a therapist. I think postpartum hormones may be playing a big part in this, and your self-esteem probably took a big hit. These issues can get bigger and bigger as you internalize them. I'm sure you look absolutely beautiful, and I think your husband thinks the same. Go talk to someone. You deserve to think of yourself for a bit. Do some things for yourself. Be happy. You are going through a big change. It's a tough time, but it will get better. I'm 5 months postpartum too, and having the exact same feelings of inadequacy and unattractiveness. Don't deny you and your spouse this time to bond and be together. Be honest with him and let him build you up. When he says he loves you and he's attracted to you, believe him. Twins are no joke, and neither are the hormones, and yes, you are still being affected by them now. This is a very precious time in your life. You are worthy of every ounce of joy. You're the asshole, but hear me out. Why are you punishing your supportive husband for your friend's rude, unnecessary comments? That's not fair to him, OP. First off, tell your friend to stay away for a while. She obviously has a thing for your husband and gets off on making you feel bad, trying to portray you as some boring hen to make herself more appealing. It's obvious your husband loves you, loves your body, even when you don't, and that's okay. It takes time. I know. I'm a mom. He loves your family. Believe what he says, and stop letting other people's perspectives and experiences dictate your own. Your husband did nothing to deserve this disappointment, and you don't deserve to miss out on an awesome date night where you two can connect as a couple for the first real time since you had your babies. Go slow, but go and have fun with him. It's okay that your mental health is all over the place, but it's not fair to let your husband deal with the fallout. Let him help you. That's why he is still next to you each night. Good luck, OP. And OP says, "Thank you for your advice. I have to pull my head out of my butt. I feel so stupid." Don't feel stupid. You're human. Who just made 2 more humans. Your brain, body, and soul are burnt out right now. I want to say I apologize for sounding harsh. Was not my intention at all, but you are beating yourself and him up for no reason. But that's what happens sometimes when your psyche is battered and bruised. You were worn out in all the wrong places, and it's okay, because you acknowledged your part in this. Who knows, maybe hubby can help give you back that spark for the weekend. Let him give you that hug. If you're okay with hugs, everyone's different. I say your feelings are valid. You feel rough, but your husband looks at you like the gem you are. Let him pamper you. If you are ready and able, enjoy the weekend, my dear. You earned it. And now on to the update. I realized I was acting quite stupid that I posted that. I was just feeling so low and making things up in my mind that weren't exactly there. It's all good now. Anyways, we did go to our date and I opened up to him about my problems and apologized too for being so rude. My husband is a very simple and loving man. He was hurting too. He told me my body is perfect and he always knew that he'd grow old with me. He said the same things that you all wrote about our babies. He thinks he's the luckiest man of all. I am the lucky one though, and honestly, I could have just told him all about my insecurities and we could have easily sorted it out just like old times. But hey, I learned something new from all of you kind people in the comments. Thank you. And now in the comments, am I the only one who thinks the OP should ditch the nasty friend? Yeah, my friends and I never comment on the attractiveness of their partner, except maybe when they very first start dating them, and we definitely don't rag on each other for leading boring, in comparison to your youth, lives, or insult romantic gestures. Yeah, she sounds like one of those high school mean girl characters. What an asshole. She doesn't seem to realize how awful her friend is being. So much this story reads like the way a friend of mine talks about herself. So I projected a little while reading, and if I or anyone I knew said the things that friend did, I would be absolutely livid with myself or the offenders respectively. That's no way to treat anyone. That said, there is also the possibility, at least for some of it, of misinterpretation due to OP's insecurities. Like the friend cooing over how nice the husband and babies look together, reading as saying her husband was so handsome. Regardless, I hope OP and her husband live a long and happy life, with or without the questionable friend. That was a lovely read. There is still too many people who forget that the best relationships look boring from the outside. Anyone who wants excitement hasn't grown up. Also, twins. How exciting is this friend expecting their lives to be with 2 5-month-olds? Aside from the obvious getting no sleep and learning fun new talents like how to juggle 2 crying small things. Also, postnatal depression is a real thing, and 5 months is still well within that time that it can affect you. I wonder if OP would benefit from talking to someone about it. I think people still don't realize how common and how serious PPD is. One of my closest friends became suicidal after the birth of her baby. She didn't feel bonded to him and thought that made her a bad mother. After a decade of trying for kids and wanting so badly to be a mom, it was too much for her. Once she told our friend group she was diagnosed with PPD, several of them said that they had had it too. Hormones are powerful. It is scary stuff. Our next post is titled, "My partner chooses his stalker friend over me, but then wants to reconcile when cut out by his circle for being friends with her. My boyfriend is a dancer. Because of this, he has a lot of female friends, which is fine, because I have plenty of male friends too, so there was never any jealousy on either side through the course of our 2-year-long relationship. He has this really close circle of female friends. Some of them are friends, some of them not, and just know of each other's existence. I have met all of them. They are wonderful and passionate women, and I get along with almost all of them. One of his friends never took a liking to me, but to be honest, I think she never really tried to get along with me. I was fine with this. Not everyone has to like me. The thing is, though, I am dating her friend, whether she likes it or not. She might not like me, it's fine, but trying to insert herself into our relationship is a no-no. What I want to say is that on top of openly voicing out her dislike for me, she's also quite stalkerish. She's blowing up my boyfriend's phone at weird hours, and if he doesn't pick up, she's throwing a fit on how I'm changing him and occupying all his free time. Last week, we had our anniversary dinner, and guess who showed up? Yup, this friend of his. He told her that we're planning to have a romantic date at this one restaurant, and she decided that she missed her friend, so she's just going to join us and pay for herself so we don't have to mind her. For some reason, my boyfriend isn't correcting her behavior. I know that he thinks that she's acting out of line because we've had this conversation plenty of times, but for some reason, he just can't set and maintain good boundaries with her. After that dinner last week, I was so mad at my boyfriend for not doing anything and just allowing her to ruin our anniversary date that I told him not to contact me for a while so I can cool off. As I said before, I get along with the rest of his circle, but I've gotten especially close to one of his female friends over shared interests. Obviously, she has learned about our fight and messaged me to learn what has happened. So I explained everything that took place, not only during our anniversary dinner, but throughout the course of our relationship. That's when I learned that this friend of his was a problem even before I came into the picture. She would accuse the rest of the girls from my boyfriend's circle of trying to monopolize his attention. She would be possessive of him to the point she would crash any meeting he had with any of his other friends and stalk him through Snapchat. She explained that they never really interfered because it was not their place to do so, and they thought that maybe there was something going on between my boyfriend and his friend. But now that I'm here, this friendship of his is just inappropriate, and she can't accept that. Apparently, she told the other girls, and they've decided that my boyfriend needs some tough love, because he messaged me yesterday, accusing me of trying to mess up his friend circle, berated me for being jealous of his friend, and even went as far as to tell me that there is a reason he's choosing her over me. I told him if that's how it is, then we are over. That was yesterday. Today he had a change of heart, and suddenly he wants to repair our relationship. I asked him if his stalker friend is in the picture, and he said yes, that she is, but I have to understand that she's going through a lot. Then he asked me if I could talk to his other female friends again, because they kicked out the stalker from their group chat, and she's crying to him that now she has no other girl to talk to. I don't know what to do. That's 2 years together, and I love this man, but this is a drama that I'm not sure that I should be a part of. I also have this weird feeling that the only reason he wants to reconcile is because this weird friend of his got kicked out of the group chat. My thoughts are all over the place. How should I proceed with this? I don't know, man. That's a tough situation right there. Doesn't really sound like he respects you and your wishes all too much. I don't think I'd be very comfortable in a relationship with someone like that. My advice is tread carefully and respect yourself above all else. You gotta look after yourself at the end of the day. And now in the comments, he probably only wants to reconcile because he's lonely. Only yesterday he told you that he was choosing her over you. Let him be with her and find someone who actually respects you because this dude ain't it. And OP says, yeah, part of me knows that this is probably the case, yet I can't help but cling to the hope that he was just up in his feelings yesterday from being reprimanded by his friends. I'm really torn over this. Maybe this thought will help. It sounds to me that his motivation isn't interest in you or even a desire to salvage his relationship with his friend circle. He only wants to repair the damage for Stalker Girl's sake. She is unhappy, so now he wants to work on the situation. It's all about trying to make her happy. It sounds like he made it clear that the reason he wants to repair your relationship is not because he realized he loves you more, it's because the benefit to his friend if he does. He hasn't changed his choice from her to you. I understand that's heartbreaking to you, but don't fall for sweet words now. He's not sad because he's missing you. He's sad because Stalker Friend is sad. Nothing's going to change if you get back together because she's still in the picture and he will continue to prioritize her over you. You deserve more than that. You should try and become better friends with the girls who reached out to you. That's a really good show of character. It's also sad your boyfriend's friends care more about you and your relationship than he does. Kick him to the curb, fully steal his friends, because you and those girls deserve better. Your ex-boyfriend has made it clear that he will always put Stalker Girl before everyone else. His other friends have confirmed this. He doesn't want to get back together with you because he loves you and he's willing to maintain boundaries with this woman. He only wants to reconcile in the hopes that his friendships with the other women will be repaired and they will take him and Stalker Girl back into their circle. You deserve so much better. If you take him back, you will do so knowing that you will be the minority partner in a threesome. Do you really want that? I would keep him kicked to the curb and not waste any more time with him. Time to find someone who will put you first and have your back. And now, onto the update. We broke up for good. I asked him one last time if he really wants to keep the stalker in his life, got a response that he feels responsible, so I wished him well and blocked him. I thought that I would grieve over the end of this relationship. Turns out, I didn't even know how stressed out I was by this mess. Blocking my ex felt liberating. Once we broke up, I stopped getting Facebook friends requests and Instagram requests from weird, obviously fake accounts. I can post a story without worrying about Stalker suddenly appearing where I am, out of nowhere, in hopes of meeting with my ex. They can have each other. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I got myself a really good friend though. After breaking up with my ex, I wrote to his friend that reached out to me. I felt like I owed her an explanation, since I thought breaking up with my ex would mean the end of our friendship. She called me crazy for thinking she would ever leave me alone now that she knows how cool I am. I just came back from grabbing a beer with my ex's ex-circle of female friends. I was invited by the friend that reached out to me. The girls are great. I was told that I shouldn't blame myself for the fact that they decided to cut my ex and Stalker out of their lives because they were thinking about it long before I even came into the picture. She was causing huge problems and none of them wanted to deal with it anymore. And the stories I've heard. Crazy. Stalker is so possessive over my ex that she was even jealous of his own mother. After his mum split with her husband, my ex spent more time with her to make her feel better. Stalker then tried to convince him that his mother is in love with him, lol. My ex complained to one of the girls that Stalker was regularly sending him articles about emotional incest until his mum got herself a new boyfriend. I'm glad I removed myself from this mess before it was too late. I want to thank everyone for their advice and tough love. I needed it to see that I'm putting myself in a very dangerous position. And now in the comments, so happy that you made the safe choice, and that your friends understood and still wanted to hang out with you. F your ex and his crazy-ass stalker. And OP says, thank you. The friends that I've gained are the best thing that happened to me through this mess. Wow, she is batshit crazy. Why does he keep her around? The whole situation with her saying that his mom was in love with him should have been enough to tell him that she's batshit. Glad you're rid of him and that psycho. Some people are so insecure that they constantly need sexual attention from the other gender just to feel okay about themselves every day. It's probably one of the most unattractive traits a person can have. And OP says, he claimed that she has some mental health issues, so he feels responsible for her well-being as her friend. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just glad none of them are my responsibility anymore. Your ex is what happens when you mix savior complex and stupidity together. Good riddance. She probably does have mental health issues. Obsession, stalking, etc. are not something someone does when mentally healthy. However, the target of her mental illness is not able to help her. Only professionals are. And OP says, She apparently has BPD from what I've learned, and she was getting professional help at some point. I don't know if she still does. I just heard that she spun out of control once again when we started dating. I have a theory about his thinking in this. He is insecure himself, and so he maybe doubts his ability to hold a relationship or keep it going. You know, that little fear that most of us have that at some point our partner will work out what a waste of space we are and dump us. Something along those lines. But here's this girl who is obsessed with him. No matter who he becomes and what he does, she will follow him like a puppy, hound him, force herself on him. For a guy with any insecurity about his future, he knows that as a backup plan, she's as concrete as one can get. So he mollifies her at every turn. She's his safety blanket. My pondering was based on how would it feel to know that someone was obsessed with me, and this would be my immediate conclusion. I realize there's loads of assumptions in there, but I honestly think if he were to undergo psychoanalysis, this would be the core of the relationship between them. As for her, I think she's just batshit. This is so batshit insane that I totally believe this is real, but the real question now is this. What other stories did you learn? You can't say that they told you juicy stuff and not share. And OP says, I have learned a lot more than I wanted, that's for sure. Let's just say that the story about my ex's mother is just the tip of an iceberg. From what I've learned, Stalker's fits of jealousy were so severe that she would threaten to commit suicide over the fact that my ex danced with someone else at a wedding. She has also stolen his phone and blocked his girlfriend, the one that he had before me, and threatened to commit suicide if he unblocks her. Apparently, she was getting better after getting professional help, but when we started dating, she spun out of control again. Yeesh. My boyfriend found out I'm rich and started using it against me. My boyfriend and I met through a dating app 8 months ago, and we've had a good, steady relationship. I come from a well-off family, but my parents never spoiled me. They taught me to not indulge in excess and to keep my privilege in mind when interacting with people. I'm currently living in an apartment with only my salary. I haven't told my boyfriend about my wealth. I wasn't actively hiding it. It just didn't come up. My birthday was a few weeks ago, and my parents threw a party at our home. Our home is a medium-sized villa. My boyfriend started scowling when I told him that that was the home that I grew up in. When I asked him about it, he told me it was nothing and started smiling again. His mood got worse as more and more of my parents' rich friends started coming in. When I asked him about it the next day, he just told me that he was feeling a little sick. After we got back, he asked me why I hid the fact that I was rich. I told him that I wasn't hiding it, but he started bringing it up in every conversation after that, like telling me that I didn't know how to cook properly because I was spoiled. He brought it up with his friends, telling them that I was a spoiled princess who had everything handed to me. It started as jokes, but it got more hostile as the days went on. When I brought this up, he told me I didn't know normal people problems because I was rich. Did I do something wrong? What should I do? And now in the comments, 3 words. Only 8 months. He is 26 years old and acting like a teenage asshole. Don't waste your time on this guy. Heads up, if you decide to dump him, he might tell people because he was too poor for you. If you got any of these rude jokes on text, I would save them. He will definitely tell people that's the reason. But if they don't have any mutuals, I honestly wouldn't even worry about what he says in the end. Just dump him and move on. Well, technically, you're not rich. Your parents are. Did he discuss his parents' income with you when you started dating? Drop that man-child though. He doesn't get to dismiss your feelings now due to his own assumptions. Not only that, but he's actively insulting her. Relationships can survive many things, but they cannot survive contempt. What she describes is contempt. You didn't do anything wrong. You can't change where you came from, and if he didn't clock that you had a wealthy upbringing for 8 months, then he's either incredibly stupid, or you clearly aren't a spoiled princess in the least. Honestly, I think there comes a point where you have to ask yourself if you could unsee this side of him. He's brought it up with his friends, insulted you to your face, and dismissed your objections. None of that is acceptable. And do you really want to continue being in a relationship with someone who constantly puts you down for something out of your control? That'll be £50. Dump him. I've had stuff in my fridge longer than you've had this boyfriend. You barely know the dude, and he is now showing you what he really is like. If he's an asshole this quickly, imagine what he'll be like middle-aged and downtrodden. And now, onto the update. After I made the Reddit post, I tried to have a conversation with him, but he kept stonewalling me. He made more snide comments, and I decided to break up. When I told him that I was leaving him, it felt like he was expecting it. He called me a rich cow and went on a rant about how I was leaving him because he was poor. Some commenters told me to expect this, but it still came as a shock. He and I have very good salaries, and I don't know why he said that. He was a good person most of the time that I knew him. Some people ask me why I didn't warn him about my wealth. All my relationships before him were with people in my social class, so the expectation of wealth was implicit. Having wealth was not a big deal in any of my previous relationships, so I assumed it was the same in this one too. I'll warn my partners before taking them home in my future relationships. This is a tangent, but I wanted to talk about the "I'm not rich, my parents are" thing that many commenters suggested. A lot of my friends from wealthy families use that line as a defense, but it's misleading. If I wanted to, I could dip into my parents' finances. I choose not to, but it is still my wealth too. It might technically be my parents' money, but it still makes me wealthy. And having wealthy parents comes with a lot of privileges, even if I don't actively use their money. I never had to work a job when I was studying, I had access to the best schooling, I don't have student loans, and my parents' connections open a lot of doors. Having a safety net let me find what I was good at and let me take risks. So, unless they are estranged from their families, children from wealthy families are also wealthy. I thank all the people who commented on my original post and gave me advice. I felt like I was doing something wrong, but you made me see that it was his insecurity and jealousy that was the issue. And now in the comments, excellent point. A lot of people don't understand how big of a deal this is. Even if you're not taking risks, just knowing that if you get laid off, get injured, have your house burned down or whatever, just knowing that you have a safe place to go and money to get you back on your feet can be a huge stress relief. I'm glad that OP recognizes and appreciates what she has. Everything she said is true. Boyfriend is a jerk and you are well rid of him. Yeah, OP seems to be one of the most well-adjusted rich people I've seen or interacted with, both with how she presents herself and how she understands and recognizes what she's got, as well as the advantages it has given her. Kudos for that for real. Unfortunately, her ex couldn't appreciate it at all. There is also the whole point of generational wealth. Although this is currently her parents' money, it'll eventually be hers. I was reading an article that shows the richest families in Florence, Italy, today are the same ones from the 15 to 1600s. You sound like you have a good head on your shoulders, OP. I'm sorry he pulled the "because I'm poor" card, but you know that it isn't true, and don't internalize it. You broke up with him because he was acting like an asshole. As a dude who was poor as F and married himself a very wealthy doctor lady, your dude sucked. You did the right thing. My wife has never made me feel bad about not having money when we dated. She let me take her on cheap dates that I could afford when I wanted to treat her to something. He was an insecure ass. I found my wife's drive and passion to be successful very sexy. She's a strong, independent woman, and I find that very, very attractive. It's never been an issue in our relationship. Her support and love got me from selling fire extinguishers to being the director of sales for my province in a countrywide digital marketing firm. All because she helped me see that I had something to offer. My insecurity wasn't based on her money, it was on me being a single father from a cheating wife and just feeling worthless in my parents' basement. She found very endearing what I sacrificed in pride to be a proper father and try to get back on my feet. She also has very rich parents, and again, none of them treated me as less than, and they all knew that I had nothing. When I moved in with my wife, I had all the stuff that I bought my kid. One backpack of clothes for myself, and a PlayStation 4. That's it. I owned nothing but a console and enough clothes for 5 days, and then all the crap I bought my kid. Now, she wanted a big property, and I'm a trophy husband who works part-time, so he isn't on an allowance. It can work just fine if the person you are with isn't a dick. My wife jokes that part of the reason she wanted to be successful was so that she could marry poor, if that's who she fell in love with, and not have to worry about money, and lucky for me, I was that poor dude. I still remember the first trip she ever took me on. She took me to Vegas, as I'd never been anywhere really, and walked into this store, saw a purse and a wallet that she liked, and dropped $4,000 like it was nothing. Apologies for the story inception, but that just wakes up a memory of mine, oh my god. I went on a Tinder date with this girl years ago, and we were just walking around the city. We went into Tiffany & Co, and she just dropped $3,000 on a wrap bracelet. I was so poor then, I was like, what's going on? These people are real, and they scare me. Anyway, back to the story. I almost frickin' died. That was more than my last 2 vehicle costs combined. But it never made me think that she was a rich cow. I just thought, holy crap, this chick's a bowler. What the hell is she doing with my dumb ass? But too bad for her. I put a ring on it, and like a sucker, she said yes. Though it took me 7 months to save the money for the ring, she said she would have been fine with anything, and I 100% believe she would be, but she's a successful doctor lady, and if I was going to get her a ring, she needed to be able to roll with the other wealthy ladies in a ring-off. It was the only time I have ever spent too much money on something, and I was so proud of myself when I got to give it to her. Hell, I even tried for months to get her to do a prenup to protect her money and assets, and she decided that me pushing for that was enough for her to believe that it wasn't needed. So that frickin' backfired. I don't think we will ever split, but I wanted her to know her money wasn't why I was with her. Good luck and great job kicking the dude to the curb. Our next post is titled, Am I in trouble for refusing to cooperate with a hospital as ex-emergency contact? Pacific Northwest, US. 3 years ago, I was in a relationship. He was abusive, did some really deplorable things I found out about later. I made a report, got a restraining order, and haven't spoken to him or anyone that knows him in 3 years. A week ago, he was in an accident. His phone was destroyed / could not be accessed, but he had some information in his wallet. He still had me as his emergency contact. I was not aware that he had added me as his emergency contact at any point. I got a call Monday from an unknown number. It was someone from a hospital. They started telling me my ex was in a serious accident. I immediately cut them off and said, I don't care who this is, do not contact me again. They called me back and asked if I could help them get in contact with someone else. At least I think that's what they wanted. I didn't let them finish. I cut them off pretty fast and said, I don't care, I hope he dies, do not contact me again, and hung up again. His sister, as we were friendly but I cut contact after the breakup, messaged me yesterday, only letting me know that their family hired a lawyer to sue me for refusing to take the hospital's call, causing a delay in his treatment. He also had some allergies and medical details they didn't know about, which caused complications and skyrocketed his medical bill. I had no idea about that either. Am I in any kind of trouble here? And now in the comments, I work in healthcare administration. To put it simply, emergency contacts have no legal binding. A person can put anyone as an emergency contact. An emergency contact is not the same as a guardian, next of kin, durable power of attorney, or surrogate decision maker. Only one of those persons can legally make decisions, and even those people can decline to be involved without legal recourse. Emergency contacts are informed of what happened, and then will be used to help contact appropriate next of kin or decision makers. You have no obligation whatsoever to respond. Continue to ignore the calls, and there will be absolutely zero recourse. The hospital should be well versed in following its state laws to find a surrogate decision makers already and does not need you to do so. Not a lawyer, but a doctor. We're unable to reach emergency contacts all the time, and that doesn't delay treatment. In emergency situations, there is assumed consent so that we can treat without the usual informed consent process because we assume the person wants to live and we do what we have to do to keep them alive. Emergency contacts are under no obligation to do anything. quote, refusing to take the hospital's call, causing a delay in his treatment. I believe whoever told you that is making things up. Your refusing to take the call would not delay treatment. When a patient is unable to make decisions for themselves, the hospital doesn't just leave them untreated and wait to speak to the family. Instead, the staff will render all care and assistance possible using their best medical judgment about what a reasonable person would want done, exactly the same as if the patient's family had requested it. The principle is called implied consent. You have no obligation to be anyone's emergency contact. You have no obligation to assist the hospital with anything. You are not responsible for this person's hospital bills. If the family really has contacted an attorney, that attorney will probably tell them they've got no case. And now on to the update. As of today, all is quiet. Here's a mini update to clarify a few things and provide more information that sadly came my way without my consent. Bumped into an old mutual who decided to fill me in. My ex's sister did not contact me maliciously to scare me. Her message was polite and wanted to give me a heads up on her parents' actions, which she does not condone, in case anything came my way. X was hit by a car while he was out jogging at night. He wasn't wearing reflective clothing and wasn't carrying much on him. Phone, key, wallet. He apparently owns a medical bracelet, but he wasn't wearing it. I don't remember him ever wearing anything on his wrists when we were together either. I believe him not wearing his medical bracelet is the nail on the coffin of any duty or involvement from my part in any way, shape, or form. Turns out he is allergic to one of the agents in the anesthesia process, either the pain relief or the anesthetic itself. I am using allergic because I am not sure what the correct term is here. Allergic, intolerant, prone to side effects. Friend's words were, he didn't respond well to the anesthesia and had an adverse reaction, which complicated things. I will call it allergy for the sake of simplicity. I vaguely remember him mentioning that he's allergic to anesthesia once when he was talking about a knee surgery he had as a child. That has been the extent of my knowledge of his allergy. I did not remember even this information until the friend mentioned the issue. Apparently, when he was intubated and prepared for surgery / some other step, the above allergy caused some additional complications that made his procedure more difficult / aggravated the state of his health / changed the default process and increased the cost exponentially. I have no contact information of his or his family. I don't remember his parents' names, and I never had their numbers. His sister's name is the only one I know because we were friends. Me and her have also never exchanged numbers. Our interactions have always been on Facebook Messenger. His parents believe that I knew the information above about his allergy and refused to share it with the hospital maliciously / refused to share their contact information with the hospital, which I do not have. They are stressed and scared because their son is in the hospital and angry because they believe some of the additional burden could have been avoided had I taken the call. They are mistaken, but I understand you cannot reason even with the most otherwise level-headed of people when their child is fighting for their life. That being said, if they proceed with their lawsuit, which I doubt, I have given my lawyer who handled my RO the heads up, including this update, and we are fully prepared. My ex was intubated and completely out of it when I received the heads up from his sister, so he did not orchestrate this. I don't know if he's awake now. Given the above, I doubt his sister is in violation of the RO since she didn't contact me on his or anyone's behalf, but her own. She gave me information on her parents' intended actions, so I would not be blindsided. I wouldn't want to get her in trouble either way. And now in the comments, his fault for not updating his emergency contact list. A judge will toss it right out. There is no law that you have to provide information or take anyone's phone call. Why didn't he have his family on there? Also, not wearing his medical alert bracelet. My mom has adverse reactions to morphine, not even an allergy. That info was on record at all nearby hospitals, and she wears a bracelet because she doesn't want to go through the hellscape that is her on morphine. My god, you have to be some kind of a suicidal if you have strong allergies and do not use some kind of identification if you can't tell yourself. For example, inebriate, or as in this case, unconscious. This dumb man should be glad to be alive. I hope he at least understands what could have been a more routine presentiment became a headache for the medics. I will not even make a comment about putting someone you have a restraining order against as your goddamn emergency contact. It is okay to be dumb, but this much dumb should be unhealthy or illegal. The whole jogging in the dark, no reflectors, no wallet, keys, no medical bracelet, makes me think the same. Another level of WTF-ery would be if he had kept her the emergency contact so she would find out. That would be manipulative. I wonder how much of the ex's behavior was influenced by having parents who view his F-ups as everyone else's. He screwed up and chose to jog camouflaged from cars. He screwed up and chose not to wear his allergy alert jewelry. He screwed up and chose an emergency contact that he can't contact because he tried to screw her up. If this guy fell off a cliff, his parents would sue Isaac Newton because gravity. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for calling my brother an idiot when he believed my nephew is my kid?" I don't even know how this all started, but that seems to be what he thinks now. Only because I, 30 male, was in a relationship with his wife when we were freshmen until our junior year of high school. My brother and I weren't in each other's lives at the time because he was living with our mum a few hours away and I was with my dad, so he never knew about me and Maeve. They started dating years later. It was weird once we all knew, but I told my brother if he loves her, then go for it. At the time, I was already with someone else. Also, I'd moved on from having any feelings for Maeve. Now they're married, and my nephew is 7. Now suddenly, he told the whole family he is staying at his friend's house because he has strong reason to believe my nephew isn't his kid. He only thinks I'm my nephew's father because he looks a lot like me. Then again, I'm an exact copy of my dad, while my brother definitely looks more like Mum, so I don't know why he isn't accusing him too. He won't tell me why he's questioning paternity out of nowhere. Maeve has only said that they had a misunderstanding during an argument, and now this is what's in his head, but won't give us any more details. The last time we talked, he told me he wants a paternity test to prove it. The fact that he believes I'd do something like that alone angered me enough to call him an effing idiot for not understanding how genetics work. We are brothers, so of course there's a chance our kids might look like the other, but it doesn't mean anything. I put a lot of emphasis on how much of an idiot I think he is for that thought alone, so that's why I'm here wondering. My dad told me my brother is clearly going through something. His mind probably isn't clear, so to insult his intelligence like that was going way too far. My brother obviously seems to think I'm an asshole too, hence why I'm asking if that's accurate at all. I don't know why he thinks that, unless you're lying to us all and you did in fact have an affair, but I have no reason to believe as such. I think this guy needs a glass of milk, and I think he needs to chill out. I don't think you're the asshole here. Now in the comments, you have no idea what the details were in their arguments, so I'm thinking that Maeve said something really bad, and now won't admit it. Maeve is kind of the asshole for not clearing the air with the family. Not the asshole OP, and keep letting your brother know that you would never do anything like that, maybe without calling him an effing idiot. I'm confused. What was Maeve supposed to clear up? He won't tell me why he's questioning paternity out of nowhere. Maeve has only said that they had a misunderstanding during an argument. Now this is what's in his head, but they won't give us any more details. Something huge was said during this argument that set brother off to crazy land. She won't admit what was said, making me think she said something bad if brother is actually questioning whether the son he loved and raised is even his. That's all just speculation though. I think it's a bit much to already start calling Maeve the asshole if something might have happened. It's not speculation that she said something that set him off. She admitted it. It's just that her language downplays it. Or maybe it was a misunderstanding. You don't know, neither do I. That's the whole point of not speculating about something that no one here has a clue about. She could have said something malicious. She could have said something entirely innocent that he misheard or misunderstood. No one here knows. Not the asshole, if the shoe fits. Your brother's the asshole, and he's being intentionally obtuse. Your father is right. There is something going on, and he is using your prior relationship with Maeve as an excuse. Get the test, put this to rest. If the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. and then demand that your brother take an IQ test. If you had to speculate, Maeve said something to the effect of, your brother was better in bed in that argument with the misunderstanding. Or the brother is throwing accusations at her due to protecting his guilt over cheating on her, and Maeve doesn't have anything to tell them because she doesn't know what's going on. What? There's no evidence of either of those situations? We can't just pull crap out of the air? Weird. Yeah, but it's funny when you pull crap out of the air. It's hilarious to me. Not the asshole. He has changed the nature of your relationship with his accusations against you. You will never be as close to him as you once were now. Considering that he believes that you could do something like that, it is not an all or nothing thing. But you won't be best friends from here on. Just take the test and get it over with, and hopefully wait for a very sincere apology. And OP says, I honestly don't think an apology will ever be anywhere close enough to repairing the way he acted with me, like if I'd ever do that to my own brother, let alone leave a kid without a father and let someone else raise them. And now on to the update. Not sure if anyone still cares, but I know that if you wanted an update about this whole thing was a lot crazier than I originally thought. Even if the final judgment said that I wasn't the asshole, I still apologized anyways for insulting him just so that my hands are clean of this. But I still told my brother how hurtful it is that he would doubt my word. Instead of trying to ask me, he outright accused me of having an affair with his wife and fathering a child with her. If he seriously thinks that it was me, then I would do the test. He'd have to pay for it though, but he better get used to not having me around because we are done after this. Clearly, the test came back showing I'm not the father, only showing what percentage of DNA we share, given that we are uncle and nephew. Not only that, a day after posting this, I'd reached out to Maeve again demanding to know what this whole thing started from. Pretty much, he suspected she was having an affair because one time he came to her work and she wasn't there. Later on that day, she acted like she did go, but he never told her he stopped by. In reality, she was... Oh god. She had a consult with a lawyer because she decided to get a divorce. But he didn't know about the divorce at the time. My brother still thought she was maybe cheating, and he went through her stuff. Maeve admitted that my brother found her personal journal. She didn't want to tell my family the details about the fight because it was regarding what he read from her journal, and some of the stuff was about her still having feelings for me. He confronted her. So that's how he misinterpreted the whole thing, thinking that it was an affair with me. Even though she said in her journal she never wrote it to sound like we were having an affair, she was only admitting still being in love and feeling guilty about being with him only for my nephew's sake. I heard my brother's side too once he was more calm. He admitted that it got to his head when really nothing in the journal said anything about us. While now I can understand his feelings about what was going on, I still can't forgive him for the way he acted since then. Again, he never asked to hear my side before jumping to accusations. He apologized for it, Maeve did too, for unintentionally dragging me into this because she didn't want anyone to find out about her feelings. It's pretty complicated. I needed a day to unplug just to process everything. As far as I know, my brother still hasn't come back to their house. Maeve is still moving forward with the divorce process, and the whole thing is a mess. My mom keeps trying to push me to talk to my brother because he feels bad about how he treated me, but I already set my condition for doing the paternity test. If he was so sure that I was the kind of brother to betray him that way, then we have no business having a relationship. For now, that's what I'm sticking to. And now in the comments, thanks for the update. Crappy situation for all of you. And OP says, indeed it is. Honestly, I have had so many thoughts and feelings spinning since this. What a mess. Why did you get a paternity test instead of him? That doesn't make sense to me. We both got one. His demand was I take it too. Why? Because he is an idiot. Still not the asshole. You set forth your conditions, he knew what would happen if he pushed for this paternity test, now he has to live with the consequences. This is none of your mother's business. This is just between you and your brother. The dumbest part is bro could have just done the paternity test between himself and the kid, gotten his answer, and salvaged his relationship with OP. Your brother may feel bad now, but only because he has proof that he's an idiot. You set your conditions, he still charged forth, confident that the kid was yours so he wouldn't have to deal with you, and now that he knows that the kid is his, now he realizes he effed up. You do what you gotta do in regards to your brother. He hurt you deeply with his accusations. That does not go away with apologies. Tell your mom that you need time and that "I'm sorry" does not begin to heal the deep wound that he gave you. Info. Has she said anything about what made her seek a divorce in the first place? She told me she wanted to divorce because it wasn't fair to have feelings for someone else and not feel anything for him. Given how the brother jumped straight into the nuclear option, I get the feeling there is more than one reason why she's divorcing him. Yeah, she did not fall out of love with the brother for no reason. If this is any indication of his personality and demeanor, there is no wonder she wanted to get out. OP was nothing more than a fantasy in her head to help her cope with her life. Yeah, no. Going to her workplace to check to see if she's there, reading her journal, and those are only the things that we know about, and they're already scary controlling. I can't imagine my husband reading my journals. That's a screwed up thing to do. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. As always, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to put some Australian flags down in the comments below, because that would be epic. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.